the protagonist of this story. Chinyu accidentally ends up migrating to a parallel world, one infested with monsters. Monsters so powerful that they can obliterate armored tanks with just a swipe of their hand. While traditional weapons were basically glorified water pistols, humanity caught a break with the appearance of people who awakened ki energy. These ki users fought off the monsters and brought peace back. Thus began the era of national martial arts practice. And Ching City. Second High School is one of the institutes that nurtures new talent. Right now, Chunyu is dozing off in the classroom, and his complete lack of attention earns him a solid strike on the head from his teacher. Bro finally snaps out of his daydreaming and start panicking, like the world's ending. But turns out it's just his angry homeroom teacher yapping nonstop. Seems like teachers aren't particularly fond of Chunyu, probably because he's not exactly a straight student. Apparently Chunyu transmigrated into a totally ordinary dude with zero martial arts talent. He's now a senior high school student, about to take the college entrance exam. That's just around the corner. And he's convinced that unless he awakens some sort of cheat, like upgrade system, his life is basically doomed. Not to mention, he won't be able to escape this teacher's constant nagging. As fate would have it, a system window suddenly flashes before his eyes, calling him an illegal alien intruder who doesn't belong in this world. After that, the system inflicts him with a curse for transmigrating to a planet that isn't his. Once the curse is complete, a system window pops up showing his stats. The only important detail is that the system literally classifies him as a weak-ass runt with pathetically low ki energy. Before Bro can even process what's happening, his trash teacher pops up again to remind him how worthless he is. A perfect fit for mopping floors and cleaning classrooms. And it's not just this fat ass. Literally every teacher in the school looks down on Chunyu. The sting of humiliation hits hard. But it looks like Chunyu won't be a loser for long. Turns out his newly awakened system rewards him with stat boosts every time he's humiliated. And since his teacher just roasted him again, the system gives him some shiny new stat points, needing time to process all this nonsense. Chunyu dashes out of the classroom and hides in an alley near the school. Surprisingly enough, the system gives him even more stat points for not being a responsible student. Chunyu doesn't even have to think too hard to figure out that. His system literally rewards him for slacking off and getting disrespected. The more he goofs around or gets roasted, the more attribute points he earns. On the flip side, if he works hard and people praise him, his stats will drop still. He wants to test this theory properly before jumping to conclusions. For now, his main goal is to increase his ki energy as much as possible. As he walks through the streets, he runs into two lovebirds engaged in an intense lip lock session. Seeing this smelly virgin loser hovering nearby, the couple shoos him away like a stray dog, which earns our boy some charm and confidence points just for being humiliated. Plot twist, that girl is not some horny teenager. She's a literal succubus who just sucked the life out of that poor bastard. Sirens of danger start blaring in Chinyu's head when he sees the dude lying dead on the ground, totally drained. This nasty woman is actually a poisonous gas parasite beast, a parasitic creature developed specifically to target humans. It latches onto human bodies and releases paralyzing toxic gas. She sticks out her creepy-ass tongue and slaps the absolute hell out of Chinyu, and for getting slapped pathetically. The system rewards him with blood and ki energy points. But seriously, what's the point of gaining stats if Bro's just gonna get humiliated and beaten into a pulp? He definitely doesn't want to die. See if his vital organs, such as his lungs, heart, or head get wrecked. He won't be able to revive no matter how much ki energy he stacks. The monster lands another blow, finally rendering him immobile. She climbs on top of him while flexing her massive Giyo as she starts sucking his face and releasing poison. Bro's ki energy begins to rise, even while being assaulted. This dude has the audacity to call her out for her horrible breath, which just earns him even more abuse. But hey, his provocation gets him another 390 blood points. This time she opens her mouth literally a whole foot wide, trying to devour him alive. Poison leaks out her throat like a broken sewer pipe and starts seeping into Bro's nostrils. We all know he deliberately provoked her, just to inhale more of that stanky toxin straight into his lungs. Bro goes full junkie mode, inhaling like it's premium grade cultivation fuel as the poison floods his lungs. The system starts bombarding him with non-stop notifications, each one proudly announcing how many points he's racking up. Eventually, he collapses. Turns out there is a limit to how much poison one man can take. As he lies there helpless, that crazy parasite beast lady sees her opportunity and pounces on it. But just when it looks like game over, my guy rises from the ground like a damn zombie out of grave. He grabs both her hands and punches the absolute hell out of her. The impact is so brutal, it drills a hole clean through her belly. Her milkers literally explode on the spot. Bro just went full Saitama mode. The only key difference is that Saitama trained hard to get there, but Shinyu got stronger by being bullied and gassed. The commotion grabs the attention of nearby onlookers, but before anyone sees his face, Shinyu bolts from the scene. About half an hour later, a beautiful woman shows up at the crime scene to investigate. Turns out that parasite Beast was a scout for mutated monsters that have snuck into the city. What really grabs her attention is the strike that killed the beast. It's so powerful it had to come from at least a level 2 cultivator, and yet there's no sign of who did it. Meanwhile, our boy finally makes it back home. His mom's busy in the kitchen, so he sneaks into his room before she notices the blood stains on his clothes. Except someone is already in his room. His hot older sister, naturally. She notices the blood and questions him about it. He just shrugs and says he tripped and fell, then rushes to the bathroom to change. She keeps teasing him with a fake Northeast accent she picked up from a coworker. Luckily, the system grants him a spirit point just for being teased. Later, the family sits at the table for dinner. His mom has cooked up a whole buffet of delicious dishes. Surprising Chun, you seeing all this food. Shinyu feels warmth within him. His surroundings may have changed, but his family is almost exactly like the ones he had in his original world. Out of habit, he teases his sister by dropping onions on her plate. She retaliates by dropping a tissue straight into his rice bowl, before their teasing morphs into an absolute sibling fight. Their mom intervenes as he continues to eat. His stats start to drop: hunger, health, everything, all thanks to this cursed reverse system. His sister notices the sudden dip in his mood and assumes he's upset over her teasing, trying to make it up to him. She slides a small box across the table. Inside are the chi-enhancing elixir. This stuff is so rare and expensive. Shinyu wonders if she had to put her virginity on the line to get. Naturally, she bonks him on the head for saying something so messed up. Her name, by the way, is Saiwen. She saved up for this elixir and even paid in installments to afford it. 2 years ago, someone intentionally destroyed her spiritual seed during the college entrance exam arena. Since then, she's lost her powers and become a regular person. That's why she cares about Shinyu so much. She wants him to rise as high as he can in the cultivation world. So he takes the pill and instantly loses 3 days' worth of cultivation progress. That's right, the pill had such a reverse effect. It drained his stats instead of boosting them. His sister quickly snatches the box back, worried he might sell the rest on the black market. She decides to personally give him 1 pill every 2 days instead. Later that evening, Chun-Yu walks alone through the streets, thinking of ways to fast-track his cultivation. Eventually, he decides to try something like that poison incident again. He pulls out his phone and starts looking up the best toxic stuff known to wreck a person's spiritual sea. After taking notes on every sketchy drug and method he can find, he decides to start small. So he pays a visit to local 7-Eleven for his test run. He settles on something a little less lethal, such as cigarettes. Behind the counter stands a lady with massive hooters, and my guy can barely hold himself together just looking at her. He asks for a pack of cigarettes, but she walks up to him and reminds him he's a minor. Then, after insulting him a bit, she struts right past him. Bro takes that personally, in a brilliant act of revenge. He throws a string of firecrackers at her back, grabs the pack of cigarettes, drops the money on the counter like a gentleman, and bolts out of the store. Later, Bro finishes the entire pack of cigarettes in just a few minutes. He's looking worse for wear after inhaling that stuff. If he has to be honest, it tastes worse than dog poop, but the trouble finally pays off. He gains 98 key energy points, and now he is officially a level 0.3 cultivator. To put that into perspective, a level 0.5 cultivator would be considered a top-tier 11th grader. A level 0.8 cultivator is practically a top 10 student at the whole school. If you hit level 1, you could get a good job right out of high school. No degree needed, and the salary will also be pretty damn sweet. For Chinyu, this means he just needs a few more packs of cigarettes, and he can skip all the other stuff. directly jumping into the college entrance exam. As a level 1 cultivator, he's daydreaming about his next steps when two thugs show up and start bullying him. Apparently the spot where Chun-Yu smoked his pack of cigarettes is part of their turf. These chain smokers are not vibing with him occupying their territory. They threaten to report him to the school for smoking, and the consequences won't be pretty. Chun-Yu knows these guys. One is to Chun, while the other goes by the name to Chio. They're the classic campus bullies, always extorting weaker students for their stuff. One of the jerks grabs Chun-Yu by the collar and demands that he cough up more cigarette packs or face a beating. Chun-Yu earnestly tells them it was his first and last pack, so he has nothing else. The bullies order him to go get more. But here's the thing, Chun-Yu is broke as hell and has nothing left, since he's not offering them any value. They decide to use him as a punching bag. Underestimating our boy is the first and last mistake this bastard is going to make. In one move, Chun-Yu punches Dokyu so hard that the guy goes flying. The other guy to Chun is standing there with his eyes nearly popping out of his skull, freaking out because his friend just got knocked out with one punch. And his friend is supposed to be a level 1 cultivator. It looks like the Chun didn't learn anything from his buddy's mistake and tries to attack Chun-Yu. That ends just as badly. One gut-wrenching punch, and Dachuan's out of commission too. Shortly after, the crowd that starts to gather around is left in shock as they witness the two bullies completely stripped naked, lying on the ground vulnerable for all the passing students to see. Chun-Yu, on the other hand, walks away like a true Chad, oozing confidence. He's gotten so strong, he's starting to wonder how the hell it happened. Seriously, all he did was smoke that foul-tasting cigarette pack, worse than any crap he's ever had to deal with. Now, he's debating whether he should smoke 100 packs or maybe even 1,000. Next, he's already picturing himself ranking at the top of the cultivation world. Once he's strong enough, his next goal is to win the heart of the lady he loves the most. His irritating teacher suddenly appears out of nowhere, eavesdropping on his thoughts. Of course, this bastard scares the hell out of Chun-Yu. He then starts with his usual insults, calling Chun-Yu pathetic. He says Chun-Yu needs to step out of his comfort zone. Instead of daydreaming, focusing on cultivation would actually be useful for his future. The dude is so annoying, Chun. You can barely keep it together. The teacher goes on and on, giving instructions on how to gather chi and feel the spiritual sea inside his body. Chun-Yu gets into position just to shut the guy up. But as usual, his efforts lead to disaster. The system starts deducting key energy points because he's trying too hard. In just 10 minutes, he loses a bunch of key energy, sacrificing all that just to appease his trash teacher and get out of this mess. And then the announcement blares across the school grounds, telling all homeroom teachers to lead their students to the field and line them up in positions. The pledge ceremony at the school is finally about to begin. The principal, standing at the podium, enthusiastically announces to the gathered students that the battle for the college entrance exam Spirit is right around the corner. This is a pivotal moment in their lives, a moment that will determine the direction of their futures. While the instructor drones on about the importance of the ceremony, the focus shifts to Chun-Yu, who stands amidst the crowd. The students behind him mock and ridicule him, laughing at his expense, but strangely, instead of feeling discouraged, Chun-Yu feels more confident. Every insult, every jeer, is only pushing him to prove them wrong and gaining him stat points. In the process, some of the insults hit below the belt. They call him gay, say his family eats shit because of how poor they are. This goes too far, and Chun-Yu, unable to hold it in any longer, explodes in frustration. The crowd grows more aggressive, spitting even more venom at him. But for Chun-Yu, it's a win-win. Their words are making him stronger, and every insult is making him the opposite of what they think. It's almost ironic how much they're helping him by tearing him down. Meanwhile, a model student takes the stage, a figure of grace and success. Her name is Xing Bi, a student at Capital University, and the vice chairwoman of the Cultivator Union. Once she was the top student at this school, and now she's a high achiever at Capital University. Chun-Yu's teacher, upon seeing her, is completely smitten. He tells Chun-Yu to take notes and learn from someone like her. But Chun-Yu isn't impressed. In fact, he loathes her. This is the same girl who, during the college entrance examination 2 years ago, deliberately destroyed his sister's spiritual seed and ruined her cultivation base. Shinbai steps up to the podium, greeted by applause, and begins her speech. Her words drip with disdain as she declares that those who are useless shouldn't even be eligible for the exam. They only waste educational resources and squander their time. She points out that people like Chunyu, who fail time and time again, are exactly the type of student she's talking about. Her words sting, and her lack of mercy is evident as she singles out Chunyu as an example of everything that's wrong with the school. Chunyu's teacher tries to apologize for not producing a good student out of our boy, but the principal reassures the teacher it's not his fault. Chunyu is just an insignificant parasite, a burden on the school. He believes that getting rid of students like him is the best option. After all, the school prides itself on producing exceptional talent. People like Xingbai, who are capable of representing the school on a national level. The insults continue. But what really takes the cake is when Xingbai spits on her own shoes and then orders Chunyu to lick them. If he does, she promises to write him a recommendation letter to ensure he won't end up like his trash sister. But Chunyu, in response, calls her a bitch right to her face. The audacity of this guy blows everyone's mind. The crowd goes crazy shocked that Chunyu refused to lick her boots. But then he UPS the Annie. He proposes a bet. If he fails to get into university, he'll get on his knees and lick her boots just like she asked. But if he succeeds, she'll have to apologize to his sister. Xingbai takes the bait and agrees to the bet. A smile spreads across Chunyu's face, knowing that soon he'll get to crush her fragile ego. But just when he thinks things are going his way, trouble comes in the form of that same big, hootered lady from earlier. She brings the police along, accusing Chunyu of stealing cigarettes from her store. The poor guy is terrified, not knowing how to get out of this one. A while later, Chunyu finds himself in the principal's office, surrounded by all the authority figures. He narrowly avoids the charges of theft, since he dropped the money at the scene, and with the shop owner's consent. No charges are pressed, since it's his first offense. The officer decides not to arrest him. For now, he's off the hook. However, he still has to face the principal, who is far from pleased. Xingbai takes the opportunity to threaten him with permanent expulsion. If that happens, he won't be able to take the college entrance exam, and he'll lose by default. This is then. Chunyu's homeroom teacher suggests principal to think the otherwise, but the trash principal still hands Chunyu the expulsion notice, telling him that he is no longer a student of second high school. The teacher tries to convince the principal, but Chunyu stops him and tears up the expulsion notice in front of everyone, with an aura of a true Chad. He walks out promising that he will pass the entrance exam. Meanwhile, Chunyu's teacher watches, still bewildered by how the expelled student can act so high and mighty. As Chunyu leaves, reality starts to hit him like a bolt of lightning. He's now out of school and without a way to take the exam. He's in serious trouble. He fears he might be forced to do what he promised in the bet, which is to lick Xingbai's boots, and the thought terrifies him. Chunyu returns to the tobacco shop to confront the woman who caused his downfall. He yells at her for getting him expelled, but she reminds him that she promised not to press charges, so it's not her fault despite his frustration. Chunyu acknowledges her words and realizes that what's happened is karma for his previous trouble. He sincerely apologizes for causing her any problems. Seeing how genuinely apologetic he is, the big hooter lady softens. She decides to offer him a job. Seeing Chunyu's good looks, she thinks they could capitalize on his appearance to earn some money. But Chunyu isn't interested in anything that might compromise his dignity and refuses the offer. He then once again throws a tantrum, wondering how she could destroy the life of a promising student like him once again. Her expression softens as she realizes that she is indeed the one who ruined this boy's school life. So she starts to feel sorry for him and agrees to help. Chunyu, seeing this as a chance, asks her to find a school where he can enroll and still have a shot at taking the exam. The woman, clearly impressed by his dedication, agrees to help, but on one condition. He has to work for her to repay the money he owes for the cigarettes he took. With no choice, Chun simply says yes. Working with a hot milker lady is not that bad after all. The next day, he starts working at the shop, while she handles the task of finding him a new school. At first, he regrets agreeing to her terms, worried she might push him too hard. But as the day goes on, he starts to slack off, drinking soda and gaming to pass the time. What's amazing about all this is that slacking off at the shop is giving him free stat points, and his key energy increases rapidly. Just as he's enjoying his break, a new customer walks in. This customer, a middle-aged man named Cannon, is a level 0.4 cultivator. He isn't here to buy tobacco, but rather to find Chunyu. When Chunyu confirms he's the guy in question, the man begins to mock him, and Chunyu wonders what this guy's deal is. in order to get answers who this bastard really is. The scene flashes back to the two bullies, who had gotten beaten by Chinyu earlier. They had gone to their master and begged him to seek revenge. The Baldy accepts the job immediately, eager to get back at the kid who embarrassed his subordinates. Back in the present, the Baldy requests a pack of Mediterranean cigarettes. Chinyu simply grabs the pack and promptly proceeds to hand over the pack and asks for the 45,000 yuan he owes. But instead of paying, the Baldy squeezes Chinyu's hand in a vicious grip, thinking he's about to crush the young man's bones. But reality turns out totally different. The Baldy bastard ends up getting his wrist bones broken. Meanwhile, my guy stays completely unbothered, acting like he's just having a good time, shaking hands with the first customer. Then my guy applies just a bit more pressure, and the wrist joint starts cracking too, making the Baldy bastard scream in pain, like he just got boned from behind. Chinyu doesn't stop there. He literally grinds all the bones in the bastard's hand by shaking it, like he's trying to start a lawnmower. Eventually, the Baldy bastard runs out of the place with his broken hand, whining like the little bitch he is. He's in such a hurry, he even forgets to take his cigarettes, since the bastard left them behind. Chun decides to treat them as a gift and helps himself. A while later, he starts counting up all the cash he made selling stuff in the store. Turns out this little shop is raking in a surprising amount of money. On the daily, before going any further, he decides to stash the money in the cabinet. But when he opens it, he finds panties clearly belonging to some young lady. And of course, the only other person with access to that cabinet is the big hooter lady, so yeah, it's definitely her stuff. His intrusive pervy thoughts kick in, and he starts thinking about clapping her one day, especially since she straight up said she's into younger men. Bro freezes the moment she sneaks up behind him. She asks what he meant by clapping, caught red-handed thinking about her. All he can do is stand there nervously under her gaze. She then invites him to her room, saying there's something she desperately wants to show him. But since my guy isn't in the mood for surprises, he turns her down back to business. He asks if she found any suitable school. Sadly, she hits him with the bad news. Then she asks how his cultivation is going. That's when the idiot reflects on how he's been slacking off this whole time without any issues, which basically means that he had been working hard. Bro's logic sounds like someone who successfully fails every task. Meanwhile, the big hooter lady starts admiring this dumbass again for being so hardworking and dedicated. Looks like she's starting to fall for him. And now she wants to lock him down before any other girl shows up. Back to business again, she asks if he's been keeping up with the news. Apparently inside the 341B spaceport, there's a strong radiation field that's been killing people left. And right, no one even dares to go near that place anymore. Which of course makes it the perfect place for our guy. A radiation-infested zone. Sounds like a safe haven for uninterrupted cultivation. The next day, he shows up at the facility where the portal's located, standing there in his radiation-proof suit. My guy thinks about the rumors that the space portal in Chingchong City has the highest mortality rate because of the extreme danger. The number of cultivators coming here to hunt treasures has dropped. Hard those who still show up at the 341B portal are just straight-up fearless badasses. But being a badass means nothing when the radiation can literally mess with your mind. And all the injured people limping out are living proof. And Chinyu isn't planning on joining them in the hospital. Before he enters, one of the instructors gives him the necessary instructions and tells him to. He twists the anti-radiation key located on his chest plate. Instantly, a shimmering energy shield crackles to life around him. He is now cleared to venture into the treacherous space portal. A stern warning was given. Do not deactivate the shield inside. Finally, our protagonist steps through into the dimensional rift. But contrary to his darkest expectations, the other side looks like an interstellar station where countless warriors are idly waiting around. But then he collapses to the ground, crushed by a sudden, agonizing pain. A wave of vertigo hits him, his blood feeling like boiling lava. The onlookers gather, watching his pathetic, writhing form. They scoff with open mockery, wondering how this fool dared to enter with such pathetic ki energy. His condition worsens as radiation seeps into his very cells. It feels as if his heart is about to detonate in his chest. Panic erupts with people yelling to get him aid before he expires. But then, an unbelievable plot twist occurs. Our hero rises, his entire demeanor shifting completely. He's grinning like a madman who has just discovered a new power. It turns out this agony was all part of his grand design. His curse inverted the radiation into a massive stat enhancement. And now, he feels a sensation so utterly and indescribably invigorating. It's a state of pure euphoria, just as his intel had suggested. The further one delves into the 341 ebb space portal, the more intense the radiation levels become. Thus far, no cultivator has possessed the courage to go that deep because of the sheer lethality of the environment. All treasure-seeking expeditions have been officially forbidden. As he presses onward, he can feel the power level escalate. But this sensation only strengthens his resolve. Before he realizes it, he's ventured deeper than anyone before him. Upon reaching a sealed-off dead end, he decides it's time to deactivate his radiation-blocking shield, and the very moment he does, he's assaulted by an unbelievably insane surge of torment, a pain that he can only just barely endure. Lethal radiation begins its assault from every direction, attempting to tear its way into his very essence. But our protagonist can feel it. His attributes are skyrocketing, and he's on the cusp of evolution. 3 hours pass, and he's sprawled on the ground, not from being drained, but from the absolute high of his life. He's been cultivating and power leveling like a madman. Sure, the radiation is supposed to be fatal, but for him, it felt more like a deep tissue massage from a heavenly maiden. It was revitalizing, purifying, and even great for the skin. He realizes he's already overstayed his welcome in this zone, so he makes a mad dash toward the exit. Once he emerges, he sees something. The other cultivators in the portal have erupted into a fierce brawl. The woman trading blows with a blonde man is Bao Wang Yao, the esteemed daughter of the Bao Wang clan. She demands to know the identity of these thugs and their motives. The blonde-haired punk doesn't reply. He just sneers and orders his lackeys to overwhelm her. It seems his plan is to sell her to the Fairness Association for a hefty reward. But the lady sends one of the morons flying with a kick, as if he were nothing more than a leather ball. She then floors another one with a decisive punch. That's when Blondie spots his chance and rushes forward, his fist glowing with concentrated energy. But the lady vanishes into thin air. His powerful punch only connects with empty space. She materializes high above his head and brings her heel down, crushing him like a common insect. After her stunning acrobatics, she lands gracefully. It seems this arrogant fool misjudged her capabilities, and now he is paying the ultimate price for it. But according to his wicked sneer, she isn't safe. She suddenly buckles to the floor. It turns out the despicable coward had launched a hidden projectile earlier. That projectile actually tore her suit. The bastard had secretly damaged her protective gear before they even entered the portal. Each time she uses her full power, it deteriorates more. Without her anti-radiation shield, even the scion of the Bao Wang clan is just a vulnerable mortal. As she lies there, completely defenseless, the scoundrel moves to claim her Gaia device. That's when our guy appears, grabbing his disgusting hand, before he can further dishonor her name. The noble lady's hazy vision can't discern the face of the Giga, Chad, who just arrived to become her savior, and she finally loses consciousness. Blondie is infuriated that someone has ruined his scheme. He unleashes a powerful uppercut, striking our boy's chin. Chun grows annoyed, so he decides to return the favor. But his punch misses, and the bastard clocks him once more. Another brutal punch lands squarely on his face, but instead of pain, it's just another delivery of free stat points. Blondie's confidence swells. He believes this fight is already won. Chinyu swings again, misses, and takes another blow. He persists, trying to land a single damn hit, but each time, he absorbs the full force of the attack. Here's the thing, he's doing this intentionally, taking the damage to power himself up. Blondie, meanwhile, is starting to fatigue. He's thrown so many punches he's nearly out of gas. So he unleashes his final trump card. He signals to his battered henchmen. And together, the trio unleashes a green, electric art that begins to shred Chinyu from the inside out. But we all know what a complete masochist our boy is. All of this agonizing pain is just pure ecstasy to his system. Blondie smirks, declaring the real suffering begins now. This technique doesn't merely electrocute you. It drains your core internal energy, weighs down your body, and causes organ failure. Even your key energy will be corrupted. But all of these so-called side effects are just a symphony to our boy. He flashes a defiant middle finger right at the coward's face. The trio intensifies their electric assault once again, and this absolute masochist is relishing every single moment, not getting the desired reaction. They amplify the technique's intensity. It only serves to fuel his twisted, euphoric state even more. Soon he's brought down to his knees, mind going blank, eyes rolling to the back of his head, cheeks flushed, completely immersed in the bizarre sensation. Blondie is completely exhausted. All those powerful electric shocks did nothing but energize our hero. Now, Blondie aims to finish it with one last attack, a blow meant to shatter Chen's skull. But before his fist can connect, boom! Our guy lands a devastating surprise punch to his groin. A catastrophic explosion of jewels occurs, and his entire bloodline is splattered across the floor. With that one scumbag down for the count, our hero disposes of the remaining goons like yesterday's garbage. The girl begins to regain consciousness, and through her blurry vision, she finally sees her valiant savior. After pilfering the broke thugs for their credit cards and loot, our boy scoops up the girl and proceeds toward the exit. The personnel in the facility scramble to summon a doctor. After all, this is the precious daughter of the Bao Wang family. Once our guy delivers the lady into the capable care of the staff, he figures it is his time to depart. His heroic duty has now been fulfilled. A short time later, he removes his anti-radiation suit and stands there unclad. Quickly enough, all those delicious stat points start flooding it. To test his newfound power, he throws a punch at the air and can feel he's brimming with might. But then he feels a trickle of blood from his nose. That's a rather alarming sign. Plus, the stats are no longer climbing as rapidly as they were before. This indicates his body has reached its current absorption limit. Pushing any further could prove to be fatal. To explain it, it's akin to being submerged in magma. It doesn't matter how much health a person possesses, their physical form would still be incinerated. He hastily dons his protective suit again and hurries to get decontaminated as quickly as possible. After passing through the decontamination chamber, the female attendant at the facility instructs him to remove his attire and leave it behind for a thorough inspection. This is to ensure no residual radiation remains. That could potentially harm him later on. He complies with her instructions. And when his perfectly sculpted body and six-pack are revealed, all the female staff present in the room become visibly flustered. One of the assistants, desperate to get a better look, insists that he remove his boxer shorts, claiming it's a mandatory part of the complete examination. It's obvious he understands what these ladies are up to, so he adamantly refuses to take off his undergarments. Nevertheless, the thirsty girls surround him under the guise of an inspection. One even begins pressing her ample chest against his arm. As alluring as this soft sensation might be, he is a true gigachad and firmly pushes the woman away. Later, as Chinyu waits outside the cultivator assessment room, two guys approach and start making fun of him. They're certain they recognize him from somewhere, and recall he was the first student ever expelled from his high school, just before the crucial college entrance exams. Essentially, these two are attempting to bully him, but our protagonist has zero to prove to them. He calmly shakes their hands and concedes that they are correct. Within the cultivator training facility, the other cultivators are fiercely engaged in their training regimens. One of the guys who was just trash-talking him strikes the strength testing machine and registers a score of 0.2. The guy cockily states he only used a fraction of his strength, though it was clear he put his entire being into that one blow. They then dare our protagonist to try a punch himself. Whoever achieves the superior score is the winner, and the loser must streak for 3 laps around the facility, while also shouting that they are a complete and utter idiot. Naturally, our hero is more than willing to accept this bet, and when he unleashes his own punch, he utterly annihilates the entire machine. This leaves the other guys staring in absolute disbelief. The challenger, who scored only 0.2, pulls out a personal power meter and wants Chun to try. He claims the public machine must have been broken. Chun is ready, and with a single, effortless punch, the guy holding the meter is sent flying back into the wall, along with his precious device. The score displayed on the machine is even more astronomical, which only terrifies the poor fool even further. This arrogant jerk is now reduced to a whimpering puddle. Chun ensures they both receive exactly what they deserve. After knocking them unconscious, he ties them up naked. Since they are unable to call themselves idiots as per the wager. Chen affixes a note declaring them to be the stupid ones. Later, Chen goes back to the tobacco and spirits shop. Finding the store closed, he attempts to sneak into the upstairs flat. He climbs in through the window, but to his amazement, he discovers the well-endowed shopkeeper lounging on her bed. Her huge assets are on full display. Startled, he loses his balance and falls on her soft, plush body. It seems she's already been viewing adult content and is fully prepared for an intimate encounter with him. But Chen quickly flees downstairs as he has to open the shop. While he's busy managing the storefront, the lady decides she will go find a new school for him. Chun places some of his earnings into the cash register and helps himself to a fresh pack of cigarettes. He lights up an entire handful at once, inhaling the smoke. The subsequent rush of stat points makes him feel utterly ecstatic. He is consuming so much tobacco at once that he inadvertently sets off the fire detection system, triggering the sprinklers to douse any potential blaze. We then transition to a corporation known as the Levy Group. Within their headquarters, we see that pathetic blondie who had his jewels crushed. He's currently reporting to his superior, delivering the unfortunate news that his mission to abduct the Bao Huang family's daughter failed. The reason for this failure was an unknown party's intervention, without a single moment of hesitation. The boss executes the blonde-haired bastard for his incompetence. He then commands his other underlings to locate the savior of the Bao Huang family's daughter and eliminate him. We cut back to the tobacco shop. Chen is drifting off to sleep when his phone suddenly rings. It turns out to be his mother, calling with fantastic news. His older sister is now engaged to be married. This revelation hits Chun like a physical blow. His sister is known for complaining constantly, so the idea she found a man is shocking on a cosmic scale. Later on, back at home, we are introduced to a bald man who is Saiwen's fiancé. The very instant Chun enters the room, the bald individual mistakes him for her previous boyfriend. Chun remains perfectly composed. He just snatches the teacup from the bald man's grip. After all, being Saiwen's younger brother, he holds the authority of a paternal figure, and in accordance with Chinese customs, he accepts the teacup offering. Chun then begins his interrogation. He asks for his name and his age. The nervous bastard identifies himself as Wang Shi, 34 years of age. Chun continues his question. Wang boasts he's the son of the factory owner where Saiwan is employed. He claims to own a private villa, several apartments in elite neighborhoods, and even arrived in a BMW. Oh, and he has more than enough wealth to live a lavish life. Chun then poses the most important question. Why did he choose his sister? That's when Wang's true colors emerge. He states he has a preference for women with a big personality. Perceiving how utterly creepy this man is, Chun concocts an excuse and vetoes the entire arrangement. He refuses to give away his sister's hand in marriage. Naturally, his sister loses her temper and starts beating him senseless. After witnessing Chun receive the beatdown of his life, the creepy suitor immediately reconsiders marrying Saiwan. Later on, she pulls Chen inside and demands an explanation for his behavior. It seems Chen deduced she was only marrying that wealthy bald man for one reason: to acquire chi-strengthening elixirs. She's visibly embarrassed at being exposed so easily, but ultimately, she confesses she would do absolutely anything if it meant Chun could become the greatest cultivator and bring her pride. For some bizarre reason, Chen abruptly shifts gears, calling the bald creep his beloved brother-in-law, as if nothing had transpired. Even Saiwan is flabbergasted by his sudden change of heart. To have a private discussion, Chen extends an invitation to his new brother-in-law to a foot spa. It's clear that Chen is trying to exploit this opportunity, making this bald simpleton pay for all the premium services. Before long, the establishment's manager approaches. It's apparent that he already has a history with Wang. It turns out Wang has brought numerous associates here before, so it is not surprising that he is a frequent patron. As they enter, the manager whispers to Wang about the new hostesses they hire. Wang tells him to be discreet, as he does not want his fiancé's brother to know about the depraved activities he once engaged in. Just the mere thought of young women has this man salivate. Regardless, they take seats in the lounge, and Wang produces a thick wad of cash, telling the manager to give Chun Yu the finest experience this establishment has to offer. Not long after, 3 voluptuous hostesses appear, all of them eager to provide their services. One sits beside Chun, since he is too young to consume alcohol. She presents her own milk to him. Well, it appears it is not the beverage she is referring to. It is the glass of wine held securely between her enormous bust. She wants him to take a drink, From that very spot, Chun accepts the glass of liquor, and as soon as he downs it, boom, his stat points surge upwards. The other busted girls begin to fawn over him too, granting him even more attribute points. Since Wong is shelling out 1,000 won for each drink, Chun wonders how much commission he'll receive per glass. Wong, hoping to get Chun wasted and unconscious so he can monopolize the hostesses for himself, proposes a 30,000 won prize if Chun finishes all the drinks. Chun feigns agreement, drinks all the liquor, and then fakes being completely knocked out. Believing the coast is finally clear, the bald pervert tears off his shirt and gets handsy with the ladies. Meanwhile, Chun had already activated his phone's live stream, broadcasting all of the creep's disgusting actions to the public. Wong is arrested and publicly humiliated, while Chun collects his winnings and had a great time. Later, our protagonist returns to the cigarette shop, feeling utterly drained from the ordeal. There, the big-hootered lady shares some wonderful news. She has finally managed to secure a school for him. Our boy's face lights up like a child on Christmas morning. Later, he is seen taking delivery of fresh tobacco supplies from a courier. But completely unbeknownst to Chun, 3 suspicious individuals are hiding in the shadows behind him. And yes, their intended target is Chun himself. These wannabe Super Sentai clowns finally make their appearance. Their bizarre posing causes Chun to turn and question, who in the hell are they supposed to be? The red-haired one brings up the incident at Portal 3, 41B. Where Chun foiled their plot to capture the Bao Huang family's daughter. They still hold a grudge for their blonde-haired companion, the one who got his family jewels shattered and died a pathetic death. But in the end, these idiots are the ones who get their rears handed to them. After receiving the beating of a lifetime, that red-headed fool starts to lose his composure, screaming about how Chun could have acquired such power. Even so, he refuses to betray his leader or reveal any information. He claims the only path for Chin's survival is to join the Levy group. You see, the Levy group is a primary shareholder of the 41B space portal, and since Chun wrecked their kidnapping scheme, involving the daughter of the esteemed Bao Wang family, there's no chance they will simply allow him to get away. Hearing this, Chun finally puts the pieces together, that these thugs are connected to that one individual, whose balls he pulverized inside of the portal. Meanwhile, the redhead keeps ranting about the dire repercussions if Chun refuses to cooperate with them. But our protagonist remains completely stoic, shrugging off the empty threats like dust from his shoulder. We cut to the local police precinct, where an officer is debriefing his chief about some scoundrels who were discovered tied up to a telephone pole, completely naked, with a phone proclaiming they're from the Levy group. And that isn't the whole story. The phone's recording also holds a confession from the red-haired thug, explicitly admitting their plan to abduct the Bao Wang girl. With this kind of hard evidence, our boy knows these guys are finished. Standing before a local pawn shop, Chun hardens his resolve with a single thought, that he will completely eradicate the Levy group from this world. He intends to use the funds he confiscated from the assailants, along with the 30,000 yuan from his sister's slimy fiancé. Back inside the shop, Chun calmly presents an extensive shopping list of items he requires. The shop owner is shocked that every item is incredibly violent. But hey, as long as Chun has the necessary funds, procuring the items will not be a problem. Cut to the Levy group headquarters. One of the boss's henchmen reports that their men were defeated, once again by Chun, and this time they've been arrested by the authorities. The boss isn't concerned in the least. He has deep connections within the police department and states that he will take care of it. Still, he is enraged that his men continue to be bested by a teenager. This time, he dispatches a formidable level 2 contractor, a professional assassin, to target Chin's entire family. Shortly after, the boss is served a vintage bottle of wine, but shockingly, it turns out to be filled with urine. Just as he erupts and strikes the man who served it, the doors burst open. Enter our hero. He strides in, prepared to dismantle the entire Levy group. The boss scowls deeply. After all, the thorn in his side has now appeared at his very doorstep. Chun just smirks and asks the scumbag a question. He inquires as to how that special vintage tastes. The boss nearly retches while his men charge towards Chun, but all they receive for their trouble is a face full of pepper spray, blasted directly into their eyes. It turns out Chun brought the spray not just to incapacitate them, but for his own purposes as well. He sprays it directly into his face, and boom, he gets that delicious stat boost, particularly for his vision. The enraged drinker commands another wave of goons to attack. They rush forward like brainwashed sycophants, and Chun fells each of them, one by one, with crushing strikes. The boss can only watch on, paralyzed by disbelief. Chun responds with a ferocious sword strike aimed at his head. But suddenly, a muscular behemoth appears and shoves Chun back, saving his boss at the very last possible second. This man is Chris, a powerful level 3 cultivator. Still, intimidation is not a word in our boy's vocabulary. He leaps back to his feet, blade at the ready, and lunges forward for yet another attack. Unfortunately, he may have become a bit too overconfident because Chris swats him down with immense force, slamming him viciously into the floor. As he lies there, the brute mocks him for his insignificant power level. But trash talk or not, our hero gets back up, completely unfazed. That bastard of a boss then draws a firearm and takes aim directly at Chen's head. But before he can pull the trigger, Chen reveals a grenade. And not just any grenade. He holds it like a final, decisive move. If they thought they were playing checkers, Chen has been playing 4D chess this entire time. He shows no hesitation and pulls the pin on the stun grenade. An intense flash of light illuminates the entire room, rendering the boss and his muscular pig temporarily blind. And yes, this stun grenade provides yet another stat buff to Chun, while they're rubbing their eyes in pain. Disoriented and defenseless, Chun moves in, and with one clean motion, he severs the fatty's family jewels. With his blade, we cut to the tobacco shop owner, the big hooter lady, who is cheerfully preparing sausages, humming a tune while Chun is left to manage the entire shop. Cutting back to our protagonist. The brute's crotch is a bloody, bruised mess from a castration Chun just performed on him. Along with the jewels, Chun also makes sure to crush the brute's eggs. And with that, the once fearsome beast is now lying motionless on the ground. The boss is incandescent with rage that the pig he nurtured so carefully was just turned into minced meat by a mere teenager. Chin then turns his gaze upon this pathetic bastard, who is now weeping and groveling on the floor. After delivering a harsh verbal lashing, Chin makes his move to leave, trusting this fool won't be stupid enough to target his family or his friends ever again. While the scumbag may have vowed to cease all his illegal activities, it was all a deceptive ploy to preserve his own life. In truth, the coward had already resolved. He's going to dice up Chen's family into tiny pieces and feed them to wild dogs. But Chen is always 2 steps ahead. He has already figured out what this bastard is scheming. So he nonchalantly tosses several bombs right over the guy's head. The boss instantly flees from the building and ends up leaping out through a window. The only problem is that it's the 33rd floor. So now the fool is in a free fall, screaming at the top of his lungs. What's truly hilarious is that the bombs were just highly detailed, realistic toy grenades. Later, Chun is enjoying a meal with his tobacco-selling companion, and she brings up the fact that only a few days remain until the college entrance exam. Chun simply shrugs, saying he's going to ace it this time. Naturally, they quickly revert to their standard routine of adult-themed banter and lighthearted jokes, as they usually do. As evening descends, she leads him deep into a forest. It turns out this is the location where she met her late husband, and with every visit to this place, she becomes lost in her cherished memories. We're then shown a flashback. She and her husband first encountered each other during their exams. They attended the same college and chose the very same major. Everything seemed absolutely perfect, as if they were fated to be together for their entire lives. But he was killed while battling monsters. They were never able to realize their dream of having a family. He was taken from her far too soon. Now, everything becomes clear to Chun. He understands why she has always cared for him like her own child, and why she has worked so diligently to find him a good school. Once more, the dynamic between them gets a little too familiar, and the risque jokes begin to fly between them. Cut to the Spring Waterfoot Bath KTV establishment. Inside, we see the big hooter lady escorting Chun into a venue, where a young man like him clearly does not belong. The manager appears, welcoming them warmly and obviously recognizing Chun from his prior visit with his sister's ex-boyfriend. Naturally, the big hooter lady's eyes narrow with suspicion, and she begins to interrogate Chun, asking how the manager seems to know him so familiarly, as if he has visited this place before. Chun panics and quickly deflects the accusation, placing the blame squarely on the manager, demanding to know how he dares to misidentify his guest, who has never once set foot in such a place. The manager immediately understands and plays along, stating that he just made a random guess. Unfortunately for them, The big hooter lady already knows these two are trying to deceive her, so she immediately punishes both of them for their lies. Still, Chen maintains his fabricated story, insisting that a fine gentleman such as himself has no cause to enter a morally bankrupt establishment like this one. That's when the hostesses emerge from the back, greeting Chun like he's a frequent customer. Well, the jig is up now, bro. He bolts as if his very life hangs in the balance, because in this situation, it just might. Meanwhile, in some dark, desolate region, monstrous beasts have surrounded the exit of a cavern. Trapped inside that cavern are two wounded individuals, barely alive. They're desperately trying to formulate a viable escape strategy. It is revealed that the female is actually Xingbai. She has already determined that a beast horde is approaching, and they must alert the others before it is too late. But in a truly ruthless and cold-hearted move, she resolves to use the unfortunate man as a distraction. She affixes some kind of magical talisman onto his back and sprints out from the safety of the tunnel, abandoning her companion to a certain death. Cut to the Qing Municipal Government building. Inside, the director is shouting about how Xingbai, one of the most promising students from Capital University, has completely vanished from all contact, along with her entire squad. The entire assembly sits in a state of shocked silence, as he furiously demands an explanation as to why. There have been no updates filed about her team. Drenched in crimson from head to toe, she appeared. Her boss's heart nearly exploded from shock. Seeing her return alive, she began her grim report. Their assignment was to probe mutated horrors in the outskirts, but the mission devolved into a complete catastrophe. She is the sole soul to return, and then she delivered the world-shattering news. The beast wave is now upon them. Her squad ventured deep into the abyss to secure critical intelligence, including the magnitude of the approaching monstrous flood. But every one of them perished in the attempt. The only way to avert a city-wide massacre now is to declare a full-scale raid alert and brace for the impending war for survival. Cut back to the spring waterfoot bath establishment, where we find our protagonist again with the busted tobacco lady. She's commanding the stage, attempting to dazzle the audience with her vocals, but instead of inspiring the crowd, her voice is a direct sonic assault on their eardrums. Finally, she pauses, seeking feedback on her performance. Unsurprisingly, not a single person had anything positive to contribute. Suddenly, a citywide raid siren blares through the air, announcing that the Beast Tide's arrival is imminent. Chen is utterly paralyzed with shock. Once the Beast Tide arrives, the entire city will transform into a feeding ground for these abominations. The busted lady seizes Chen's hand, and they begin a desperate sprint through the streets. The entire city has descended into chaos. Sheer terror has gripped the populace, and the city's major zones are already under a complete lockdown. Everyone is ordered to remain indoors without explicit authorization. Citizens are frantically loading their families into emergency transports to evacuate them. The busted lady shoves Chun into one of the vehicles and then sprints away towards the eastern city wall, charging against the tide of fleeing civilians. She understands that only cultivators of level 1 or greater possess any chance of halting this apocalyptic disaster. Eventually, Chen's transport reaches the sanctuary center in Qingxing City. The moment they are out of the car, Chun frantically calls his mother. When she finally answers, he tells her his location and confirms if she has been evacuated safely. His worried mother quickly starts talking about his sister, but before he can hear anything further, his sister suddenly materializes right before his very eyes. The caring sister appears extremely concerned for him. She's brought provisions in a bag she carefully prepared for him. She embraces him tightly as tears of relief stream down her face. Then she rushes off to locate their mother. Meanwhile, Chun is overcome with sorrow and self-loathing, realizing he's hiding in this shelter like a worthless coward, while his own family is out there risking their lives for the city. All the cherished memories of his family flash before his eyes. Without a moment's hesitation, he bolts off to join the war against the beast horde. Cut to the gate beneath the eastern city wall. All the city's martial warriors have assembled, prepared for battle. Chun arrives, completely gasping for air. He then spots a few soldiers forcibly removing a young woman who lacks official registration as a martial artist, but she vehemently insists on joining the fight. When denied, she decimates every guard standing in her path with her immense power and then punches Chun for absolutely no reason. In retaliation, Chun unleashes a devastating blow upon her as an act of pure revenge. Honestly, who can even fathom why this bizarre sequence was even required? The creator has truly surpassed himself with this one. As Chun stands there, he witnesses the beast horde charging their way. A veteran soldier on the wall attempts to inspire the troops, vowing to fight alongside them until the end, to protect the city with his very life. His rousing speech ignites everyone's fighting spirit except for Chun, who actually loses a significant amount of spirit points from the speech's positive influence. At last, the monsters and martial artists collide in a brutal clash. Chun begins to scale the massive wall, but he is intercepted by a man with an eye patch, who warns him of the extreme danger that lies ahead. If Chun has no desire to become Monster Chow, the old warrior says he shouldn't even try to go up. Naturally, being scorned grants Chun a massive boost to his stat points, which continues to accumulate as the old man keeps belittling him. The old warrior tries his utmost to halt his advance, but Chun is so brimming with confidence that he just continues his ascent. Once he reaches the top of the wall, Chun begins carving through the monsters without mercy. While in the fray, he desperately scans the battlefield for the busted lady from the tobacco shop, but she is absolutely nowhere to be seen. Then, Chun is ambushed from behind by a spider woman boasting level 2 powers. Her silk threads are far sharper than any blade. She drags him closer and attempts to smother him with her enormous chest. The sheer pleasure of the act rushes to Chen's head, and he acquires a massive stat point bonus from the ecstasy. But as soon as she intensifies her grip, poor Chun begins to bleed profusely. This agony just grants him even more stat points. That power-up is all he needs to swing his katana like a true gigachap, slicing through the Spider-Woman as if she were made of paper. Once she's dispatched, a terrifying level 5 monster emerges, identified as a ferocious vapor mutant. The soldiers on the wall unleash a devastating volley of fire, annihilating the swarming monsters below. Their victory celebration is tragically short-lived, however, when they witness the monsters regenerating at a terrifying rate. As the soldiers descend into panic, the behemoth spews a massive glob of toxic slime, instantly melting anything it makes contact with. Fortunately, Chun leaps back in the nick of time, witnessing how invincible these abominations are. Chun knows the Busta Lady must be out there on the brink of death. Cut to a squad of soldiers utterly besieged by monsters, with a Busta Lady right in their midst. She is fighting like a true Valkyrie, carving through the creatures as if they were nothing. Then her eyes lock onto a specific monster, the very one that murdered her husband. It's as if her deepest wish has been granted, and she begins to radiate an overwhelming aura of vengeance, launching herself at the beast like a living missile. Chun finally spots her, and ignoring the old man's dire warnings, he vaults down from the top of the wall, all while the Busta Lady impales the monster with her spear. But it heals just as quickly as it takes damage. She collapses to the ground, completely spent. The monster extends its grotesque claw to snatch her, but Chun dives in front and pulls her to safety. At the very last possible second, though, he can't quite outpace the monster's speed, and takes a brutal blow directly to his back. Of course, that devastating attack only supercharges his stats. It was an extremely close call. If the strike had been any stronger, his entire body would have been utterly annihilated. Chun draws his firearm and unleashes a furious barrage of bullets. Soon enough, they are swarmed by monsters from all directions. The two of them battle with incredible resolve, but they also prioritize escaping the deadly encirclement. That same abomination from before unleashes its acidic goo once more. Chun masterfully dodges his way out of the attack, causing the slime to dissolve the other monsters in its path. He keeps the Busta Lady securely in his arms and continues to brilliantly evade the monster's assaults. Noticing how corrosive this slime is, Chun devises a plan to turn it against his foe. Suddenly, the beast snatches the lady with its tongue and begins thrashing her around violently. It then spews a gigantic torrent of goo all over her. Chun leaps between them, absorbing the full force of the goo onto his back. The acid begins to sear through his skin, inflicting unimaginable agony upon him. But that pain provides him with a desperately needed power surge. And just like that, Chun awakens to a Super Saiyan 2 state. The other monsters foolishly charge at him, but Chun unleashes his newfound, terrifying power, causing the monsters to recoil in utter shock. Still, it's not quite enough to defeat these tenacious abominations. When one of them makes the fatal error of charging him, Chun annihilates the creature with a single, earth-shattering punch. With the primary monster defeated, Chun has also depleted every last ounce of his strength and begins to collapse. But the Busta Lady catches him in midair and vows to eliminate the remaining threat. It appears the monsters are still completely overwhelming the soldiers. According to one soldier's frantic report, the casualty rate has skyrocketed beyond comprehension. And the way the battle is progressing, he fears that Chingchong City will be completely overrun with monsters in moments. So the soldier advises his commander that they must retreat. Abruptly, the entire monstrous army grinds to a halt. They pivot in unison and begin to withdraw. Of course, the commander has absolutely no idea what has happened. They have a strong suspicion that a mastermind is behind this beast tide, orchestrating their retreat. We then cut to Chingchong Municipal Hospital. Chun awakens, only to find himself surrounded by a bevy of well-endowed nurses. Beholding these stunning, buxom women, he mistakenly believes he has ascended to heaven. But when he sees one of the nurses administering medicine, he realizes he is, in fact, still among the living. His gaze then falls upon his fighting partner, that tobacco shop lady who is lying comatose in the adjacent bed. According to the official doctor's diagnosis, she severely overexerted her powers, which caused her to fall into a deep coma. He worries that if she is not treated immediately, she may sustain permanent, irreversible injuries. Chun rushes over to the attending doctor, demanding to know why they're delaying if her condition is so critical. The greedy doctor states his exorbitant price for 100,000. When Chun expresses his outrage, since the government should be footing the medical bills, especially given she was wounded while defending the city, the doctor explains that the healing process demands several cultivators to channel their ki energy into her body for 10 straight hours. During this procedure, the donors could potentially overuse their own ki energy, placing their own lives in grave danger. This revelation triggers a brilliant idea in Chen's mind, and he knows precisely how to circumvent this astronomical bill. He procures some toxic material that would kill any ordinary person if ingested, and begins to transfer his own ki energy into her. If his energy reserves run low, he can instantly replenish it by consuming the toxic substance. 10 hours pass in a blur, and the lady finally awakens in her bed, feeling completely and utterly restored. But she quickly realizes that she is completely naked. Next to her is the utterly drained Chun, who resembles a corpse just barely clinging to life. She examines him with suspicion, demanding to know what the hell he's doing there while she's unclothed. Naturally, Chun decides to play a prank on her, feeding her the ridiculous story that she forced him to pleasure her while she was unconscious. Since she has no memory of the past 10 hours, she assumes he must be telling the truth and becomes incredibly flustered. But then Chun bursts out laughing, explaining that he was merely transferring his ki energy to save her. She becomes infuriated and starts beating him before forcibly ejecting him from the room. As he sits dejectedly outside, he takes out his phone to check on his sister and parents. Outside the refuge center, we see Chen's doting and worried mother, who is frantically asking every single person about her son's whereabouts. But at last, they finally locate their one and only son and brother, bringing immense relief and joy to his family members. His sister accidentally starts strangling the hell out of him as she clings to the poor young man. She is immensely relieved because she feared he had been evacuated to Ho City. Apparently, for some inexplicable reason, the beasts abandoned Chingchong City and moved on to Ho City. At approximately 3:40 in the afternoon, the beast tide smashed into the north wall of Ho City. At 4 p.m., Ho City's communications went completely dark, and in a mere 10 minutes, the entire city was completely erased from the map of China. At the city's People's Square, everyone is watching the news broadcast on a massive screen. A state official is actually present, to offer his condolences for the annihilated city of Ho. He is profoundly devastated to see so many lives lost, but he works to instill hope in the citizens of Ching-Chong City. Speaking of humanity's enduring prosperity, 5 days pass, and deep within the 314B space portal, Chun is staring at his pitifully low stats. He has been reset to level 1 once again, after draining his key energy to save the Busta Lady. He commences his intensive training regimen. The steel orbs he's destroying contain some form of cryptic technology, as it appears incredibly advanced. Chun fantasizes about selling it at a pawn shop to make some quick cash. As he continues to destroy all of these orbs, he discerns that the dark ooze, like substance emanating from them, is a type of chemical agent that is damaging his body. Well, it seems like the perfect time for him to start grinding some key energy points. He continues to demolish those orbs to boost his stats, while also collecting that alien technology. Later, after he returns with all the high-tech components, he begins to examine these intricate motherboards. This is when he carefully removes a memory card from one of the motherboards. He immediately inserts it into his computer to uncover all the secrets concealed within. But the Busta Lady suddenly enters the room, startling him completely. He swiftly removes the card and feigns that he was doing nothing at all. Later on, Chun is browsing a website, trying to purchase tickets for the college entrance exam. But for spectators, each row is absurdly overpriced. He has no idea how he will be able to afford tickets for his family. He soon conceives of a brilliant scheme. Later, we find ourselves inside a local pawn shop. The owner is seen massaging a woman with exceptionally large and sagging breasts. The woman states unequivocally that he won't be compensated for this massage. Then, the appraiser emerges with the high-tech board Chun brought. He validates the authenticity of Chen's assertion that this technology is, in fact, from a space portal of Ching-Chong City. So now the only thing that remains is the price negotiation. Chun feels extremely cocky about the treasure he's found, since he's feeling charitable. He's asking for no more than 1 million for a single piece of hardware. The woman across from him only counters with an offer of 20,000. Take the deal or leave it, pal. The guy tries his best to haggle his way out, but the woman only reduces her offer to 10,000. The poor guy can do nothing but descend into utter despair. The woman finally decides to stop toying with him and agrees to pay 30,000 if he is amenable to it. She's only paying that much because what he brought is incredibly unique, and she's never encountered anything like it before. Chun spins around to seal the deal with a handshake in a flash. He then reveals to her even more of these main boards and cunningly insists that she pay 30,000 for these as well. The woman is floored to see them. If she had been aware he had more of this junk, she would have negotiated much more fiercely. Nevertheless, she is only prepared to offer him 25,000 for these two. Well, our guy is up for that deal, and with one more handshake, he sells her the 3 main boards, but then he pulls out another 2. Of course, he finally pushes her over the edge, so she slaps him for deceiving her and has her guards ejected. Later, as he is counting his earnings, he feels somewhat let down for being unable to sell those final 2 components. Regardless, he decides to register himself in the school before concerning himself with anything else. We then cut to the academic building of number 7 high school. In one of the classrooms, the students have already heard the news that someone who was expelled from No. 2 high school is now enrolling with them. Just then, our hero bursts into the classroom. He exudes such a powerful aura that the girls begin to faint, while the envious virgin losers start losing their minds with jealousy. Chun, on the other hand, transforms from an unparalleled Sigma into a terrified wreck when a woman sneaks up directly behind him. Later, Chun proceeds to his assigned desk, only to discover the desk covered with a slew of insulting graffiti. It seems our boy is not exactly welcome here. Not only do the students harbor a deep-seated hatred for him, even the teacher appears to be in on it. Still, our protagonist doesn't let these obstacles dishearten him. He feigns being cheerful and enthusiastic, causing utter confusion throughout the classroom, since he lacked a chair to sit on. The one amorous girl who developed an instant crush on him offers him her seat instead. She even starts fantasizing about sitting on his lap. The teacher interrupts the ongoing chatter and orders Chun to just remain standing if he doesn't have a chair to use. Since our boy has no other option, he just stands there. She then reminds him that the examination will span 2 days, on the 7th and 8th of July of each year, which is tomorrow and the following day. Essentially, each round follows a best-of-one format. The victor advances to the subsequent round without delay. Therefore, Chen will need to learn how to conserve his stamina and energy. While she's saying this, the wretched teacher doesn't forget to throw some insults, speculating that an expelled reject, like him, will likely be defeated and collapse to his knees in the very first round. The other students are no better and can't resist sneering at it. Our hero suddenly moves with the speed of a thunderbolt, appearing behind those disrespectful fools and slamming them viciously onto the floor. After knocking some much-needed sense into them, our guy grabs the scumbags by the head and forces them to apologize. The goons don't hesitate for a second before saying they are sorry. The teacher, refusing to accept the chaos Chun is creating, warns him that she will have him expelled if he persists. Our guy simply releases the idiots and decides to leave for the day. The following morning arrives, and there is a massive line outside the examination stadium. It is finally the day that Chun has been anticipating. Suddenly his phone vibrates. It's a call from his sister. She dispenses with the pleasantries and starts yelling immediately, demanding to know how he was able to acquire those incredibly expensive spectator seats inside the stadium. She is convinced he must have done something illegal to obtain them. He terminates the phone call, not before informing her that his time to enter has arrived. Inside the examination hall, his sister still looks irritated for not receiving the answer she wanted, so she just makes an assumption that he must have charmed some wealthy woman into falling for him. Meanwhile, the tobacco shop lady with the enormous bust is seated directly in front of Chen's sister. After listening to Chen's sister's tirade, she deduces that Chen must actually have a girlfriend who is spoiling him completely rotten. A while later, an instructor walks onto the main stage and at last announces the start of the preliminary contest's initial round. The first battle is our hero versus a certain Masui. Both men enter the arena, standing opposite each other, and it becomes clear that they have met before. But since we have no clue how they became acquainted, we flash back to a few moments just before the exam began. Chun is in the restroom, relieving himself. Suddenly, some random perverts try to get a look at his cucumber, which appears to be as long as a baseball bat and as thick as a fire hydrant. After finishing his business, Chun zips up his pants and turns around, only to be confronted by a couple of guys who are literally pleading with him for advice on growing their own cucumbers. To taunt them even more, our boy pulls out a ruler. It's only 6 inches long, but the markings on it say 20. He blows a kiss like a triumphant champion, leaving the inadequately equipped losers behind him with their egos destroyed. Meanwhile, a thirsty girl from his class had been listening in the entire time and starts blushing uncontrollably, realizing she might very much enjoy a ride on that Cucumber Express. One day, we snap back to the arena. Chun versus Micropenis Ma, that envious bastard, attempts a cowardly move and lands a surprise headbutt on Chun, sending him reeling. Then the punk aims for the forbidden zone, targeting Chen's most precious family heirlooms. His Micropenis squad starts cheering, ecstatic to see Chun lose the one thing they desire the most, and Ma connects with a direct hit to the groin. But Chun only acquires fertility points after getting his jewels smashed. That blow should have been the end of it, but instead, Chun just cracks a smile. A confident, cheeky, soul-crushing smile. The Micro Squad's jaws hit the floor. Then Chun lifts his leg like the wrath of a god about to strike down. Ma immediately grovels on the ground like a begging dog. It turns out he exhausted all his key energy in that one desperate attack, and now he is completely out of power. Not wishing to be absolutely annihilated, he surrenders. The referee declares Chun the winner of the first round. Up next is some random girl for number 2 high school, Ingli. She enters the arena looking like she's ready for a serious fight. Chen's aura erupts the instant he steps forward. Her short skirt begins flapping like a freaking flag in a Category 5 hurricane. She spent the entire match just desperately trying to hold her skirt down. Ultimately, she can't handle the sheer pressure and forfeits. The third round is against this odd, androgynous-looking guy from No. 3 high school. His initial stance might appear menacing, but the dude just gives up on the spot, claiming he's too big of a fan of Chen's strength to fight him. Chen isn't in the mood to divulge his secrets, so he just drills the guy into the ground regardless. The fourth round begins, and more bizarre opponents step forward. That only leads to more one-sided beatdowns. Then comes an attractive woman with a major crush on our hero. Everyone expects this match is going to be a flirtatious, no-contest situation. The referee is not having any of it. He yells at them for turning the battle arena into a daytime drama. Suddenly, The girl lunges forward, delivering a full-power knee strike. Our guy simply catches her charging knee with his bare hands and causes her to stumble. But before she can hit the floor, he embraces her as tightly as possible, making her ample chest squish between them. We then flash back 5 minutes before the examination. There, Chun is just about to exit the restroom, while those losers behind him are seething with absolute rage. And this is when he encounters a love-struck woman who has been watching him intently. She deliberately sneezes all over him, then starts to wipe away the saliva and mucus that landed on our boy. Her act of cleaning is merely a cover to grope and touch our guy's most prized assets. She is literally getting aroused just by feeling his six-pack abs, though before she can venture any lower, our guy seizes her hand in an effort to stop her unwanted advances. As he leans closer to her face, his nostrils are filled with her foul body odor, causing him to sneeze directly in her face. Of course, the woman does not take kindly to this, having smelly saliva all over her face. She can't help but feel enraged and screams at him. The police show up to apprehend Chun because everyone in the crowd, along with the guards, believes he is a sexual harasser. Back in the present, as he's holding her by the waist, our boy slams her to the ground without any regard for gender equality. With her defeated on the floor, she has officially lost the match. The girl makes it known that she will not be pursuing this bastard any longer since he refused to let her win. But alas, our hero never had any desire to date her. After all, she falsely accused him and labeled him a pervert. So he merely got his retribution by defeating her for the trouble she created. After all, there's no way he's dating a homely woman like her. Being called an ugly old hag sends a shockwave through the poor lady, causing her to shriek at the top of her lungs. As Chun victoriously descends from the stage, a recruiter from a university intercepts him and insists that he enroll in the university. He claims that for men, that place is like a utopia. Of course, Chun begins to daydream about having a harem of his own, imagining that place must be teeming with women. But to his profound disappointment, that place is entirely male with no women to be seen. Our boy is so infuriated that he feels the powerful urge to kick the bastard right in the nuts. Nevertheless, Chun swallows his frustration and starts to walk away. Suddenly, he observes that a guy named Chun Kai-shi is achieving victory after effortless victory. In fact, the guy wins with incredible ease. Well, it appears this is the same bastard from School 7, where Chun was so despised that they wouldn't even provide him with a chair to sit on. That scummy teacher is also in attendance, feeling extremely proud of her students' accomplishments. At that very moment, Chun approaches from behind and attempts to get her attention. The scummy teacher only reacts with irritation towards him, since she's not in the mood to speak with him. He decides to get on her good side by paying her a compliment, but it's obvious that this virgin sorely lacks the basic social abilities needed to charm a woman. Thus, he ends up getting berated even more harshly. Just then, 2 examiners walk up to Chun. They are actually here to present their findings. Apparently, based on the data provided by School 7, Chun's key energy level is supposed to be 0.35. But judging from his performance in the preliminary contest, they are certain his level is significantly higher than that. That scummy teacher claims that Chun must be cheating, using some kind of illegal performance-enhancing substance. So she contends that he should be disqualified on the spot. As for her own introduction, she identifies herself to the examiners as his homeroom teacher and demands that the administration discipline this fraudster appropriately. But the examiner silences her because she should not be making accusations without any solid evidence. The female examiner is determined to reevaluate his key energy level. Chun grabs this chance to show off his physique, both figuratively and quite literally, and grants them permission to touch him wherever they please, all while removing his shirt. When the female examiner places the key energy sensor over his abdomen, the device displays a score of 0.75. Of course, we get a close-up of the examiner's absolutely stunned expression, followed by that old, foolish hag who had been trying her best to undermine Chun. The examiner demands to know why the numbers submitted by School 7 do not align with the current readings. Since this old hag is his homeroom teacher, she is held responsible for this discrepancy. She falters, then finally admits the truth, that she just chose a random number and filled out the form for it. The examiner, naturally, is disgusted to witness such incompetence and negligence from someone who is supposed to be looking after her students. Her knees completely buckle when the realization hits her The fallout from her epic blunder was going to be monumental, a price to be paid directly from her salary. The examiners, however, have taken a real shine to our protagonist, so they decide to fast-track him to the next round, on account of his flawless victory streak. Naturally, the wretched hag and her useless student are dumbfounded. Her prized pupil completely loses his cool and charges at our boy, attempting to land a desperate blow. But the examiner intercepts, delivering a slap so powerful that the fool collapses right to his knees. Frankly, this little punk absolutely deserved that smackdown. He had, after all, challenged his superior's official ruling and tried to enact his own brand of justice. Later, all the warriors who qualified for the next stage assemble in one location. A bald-headed authority figure introduces himself as the chief examiner of this year's entire competition. He announces that the grand tournament is set to commence, so they had better review the regulations one final time. Essentially, this tournament operates on a knockout system. A single loss means immediate and permanent disqualification. Baldy gives a stark warning. The coming battles are going to be an absolute slaughter fest, so they should probably get their will signed in advance. The colossal gates begin to swing open dramatically, revealing the path to the final stage of this brutal exam. As all the combatants file into the massive arena, the audience is incited to roar for their chosen champions. The entire stadium erupts with cheers for the students they believe in, and Chen's family can be seen championing him from the VIP section. The high-ranking officials are already bickering amongst themselves, passionately defending their favorite prospects. The instructor directs all participating fighters into the designated waiting area to await the start of their individual matches. Inside the school 7 waiting zone, all the students are living it up in absolute comfort, kicked back leisurely in their plush chairs. Among them is our hero, as cool and unbothered as ever. Suddenly, the principal of number 7 high school barges in, and the imposing men with him immediately form a circle around Chun. While it might look like the principal has arrived with hostile intent, it's revealed these muscular titans are just here to give Chun the champion's massage he has earned for achieving such spectacular results. The principal expresses his deep regret that he was unable to procure female masseuses, because someone would invariably report him. Of course, Chun feels utter contempt for those who tattled on the principal for such a noble endeavor. The principal is thrilled that Chun shares his enlightened perspective as far as he's concerned. Their curvy physiques always helped him awaken his own inner power. Anyway, while he's present, he clarifies the rules for this stage of the competition. The combatants who will be facing off against one another will be pitted against others from the same school. He goes on to reassure the students that, while this next contest might seem incredibly ruthless, it's not nearly as savage. Just as the old man says this, a contestant completely obliterates his opponent with a single punch, launching the poor victim deep into a nearby wall. Chun isn't quite sure what could possibly be more brutal than that. The kid who just got wrecked is literally teetering on the edge of death, which is a direct contradiction to what the old geezer just claimed. The grievously injured combatant concedes his defeat before he completely loses his life force. So the referee calls for the next contestants for the second bout. The warriors who are about to enter the ring are displayed on the massive overhead screen. The battles finally commence and the opponents begin to clash. But we're not here to watch these insignificant weaklings fight. The true main event of this tournament is our boy, facing off against this punk from his very own class, the same blonde-haired fool who tried to bully him in the classroom. Meanwhile, the other combatants are fighting with every ounce of their strength, and the majority of the battles have already reached their conclusion. All this time, our hero hasn't budged a single inch from his spot, and the same can be said for his adversary. To understand the reason for this stalemate, we flash back to the past, where the principal is giving his 2-star students some key advice. He had devised a flawless strategy, where both of his students could emerge without injury. So the old man instructed them to remember this one rule. The weaker of the two must surrender immediately. Of course, neither Chun nor his blonde-haired classmate is willing to accept defeat without even throwing a punch. The blondie even protests against this cowardly idea, but the teacher just serves him a disciplinary slap. So back in the present, both are telling the other to forfeit, but neither of them has any intention of doing so. They both continue their pointless argument with one another, while the principal grows increasingly irritated at these two clowns, since they are both unwilling to surrender. The principal finally gives them the go-ahead to engage in battle. Blondie eagerly seizes the opportunity and begins to radiate a colossal amount of key energy. The referee and a few of the VIPs start to lose their minds. Witnessing a mere student display this level of raw power, Blondie, the absolute bastard, takes this as his chance to throw the opening strike, but Chin deflects it with contemptuous ease. The punk then swings another devastating kick that creates a massive, ground-shaking explosion, rocking the entire foundation of the stage. Chin's family is frozen in shock as the smoke and debris begin to clear from the arena. It seems their fears were entirely unfounded. Our hero just blocked the attack with his bare hand. Of course, none of the people in the stands have any idea how this is even remotely possible. Even his own family is clueless as to when Chun acquired this much power. Chun, on the other hand, seizes Blondie's leg and flings him away like the sack of garbage he is. Then he follows up with a powerful kick right into the fool's gut, causing the man's eyes to nearly bulge out of his skull. Those two hits were more than enough to send the shithead soaring. For a brief moment, the entire stadium falls into a pin drop silence, but then they explode into thunderous applause, celebrating our hero's decisive victory. The guys in the VIP lounge are already arguing over which of them gets to recruit such a prodigious talent as Chun for their respective universities. That Blondie who served as the catalyst for our boy's triumph is lying on the ground, completely and utterly broken. He still cannot comprehend how someone who was just recently expelled from his own school is now capable of kicking so much ass. He's utterly convinced that Chun used some kind of drug to win a match. Chun doesn't even deign to explain himself and simply agrees that yes, he did use drugs, just so Blondie can rationalize his own humiliating defeat and feel better. Chun simply turns and gestures toward the adoring crowd, who are showering him with all the adulation he could have ever imagined in his entire life. Though it's rather bizarre that he's not losing any stat points after being praised. Anyway, that which of a homeroom teacher interrupts and accuses Chun, yet again, of using performance enhancers. This time, she is accusing him because Chun simply didn't bother to explain himself to that blonde fool. So she's using this opportunity to her advantage. She drags him along with her and brings him before the principal. She lays out the situation, explaining how Chun obviously cheated, though the principal is not certain if her claims have any merit. Everyone who is present there is a witness to the raw power Chun commands. In fact, the principal is incredibly proud of Chun's accomplishments and is eagerly looking forward to giving Chun the extra leverage he needs in his academic career. The mayor also takes a moment to personally commend Chun, but that old piece of trash of a woman continues to slander our hero, and she even raises the issue in front of the mayor. The man standing next to the mayor decides to separate the truth from the fiction. By volunteering to act as a human punching bag, Chun will land a single blow on him, and he will determine if Chun is a worthy combat. Chun accepts the challenge and immediately throws a powerful punch. The impact sends that white-haired bastard skidding across the floor, but it was not strong enough to inflict any actual damage, or even make him break his solid stance. This, of course, absolutely stuns Chun, seeing how he failed to even so much as ruffle his feathers. This also provides a new opportunity for that old hat, who is always eager to mock and belittle our boy. But this is when the mayor decides to reveal the truth. In reality, even a powerful level 3 cultivator would be unable to make that white-haired man even flinch. But the mere fact that someone like Chun, who isn't even level 2, made him skid across the floor is just pure insanity. Even that white-haired official confirms Chin's incredible prowess. Chin's power is so unbelievably immense that even a drug purchased from the black market could never grant him such an insane power boost. The principal is overjoyed that Chin did not cheat after all. He then turns to that old hag and delivers the devastating news. Her half-month's pay will be docked for harassing one of her own students, for absolutely no valid reason. Of course, that piece of shit woman quickly devolves into a shocked wreck. Our hero, on the other hand, can't help but feel immensely proud of himself. There's no longer any doubt that he is truly a force to be feared. Every representative from every university swarms toward Chun to try and recruit him. Chun simply placates them by asking for their business cards. The rest he will decide later, choosing who he would like to join. Chun first wants to carefully consider his options and will only align with the ones who are offering him the best possible treatment and benefits. Meanwhile, the referee makes an announcement about the next round, which is scheduled to take place very shortly. In this upcoming match, the Dark Horse, Chun, will go up against Wang Ao from the number 4 high school. Finally, Chun stands opposite the man in question. It seems as though Chun is also mentally preparing himself before he engages with his next opponent. You see, number 4 high school is one of the most prestigious institutes in Qingqing City, and it boasts a large number of exceptional cultivators. So, basically, Chen needs to be extremely careful to avoid any unnecessary humiliation. As the countdown to the match's start ticks away, Wang begins to unleash his terrifying power and pounces upon our boy. The very instant the clock hits 0, all that impressive display for absolutely nothing. That coward simply prostrates himself on the ground, groveling like the pathetic dog he truly is. Chun then decides to grant this fool the honor of a real fight, keeping their vast power difference in mind. He decides he will fight him using only a single hand, but it appears this piece of garbage is already dead set on surrendering. Even if Chan were to decide not to move an inch during the battle, our hero finally accepts the victory he has been handed and begins to casually walk away. Meanwhile, on the top floor of the stadium complex, a guy wearing glasses is trying to strategize how they're going to deal with Chun. His friends around him tell him to have a little more faith in the collective abilities of everyone present here. They feel confident because in the finals, it's all about pure combat strength, not just one's key energy level. Besides, it would be even more humiliating if a top-seeded player got their ass handed to them. The glasses-wearing guy then points out how Chun used key energy is only at level 0.7. Even though he's powerful, he's no match for them. After all, everyone in this room is level 1 or higher. The double ponytail girl among them notices something strangely familiar about Chun, but she can't quite place her finger on what it is. Later, the first group for the third round has been assembled, and the contestants have already been assigned and selected. In the crowd, we see that scumbag principal, who had our hero expelled from his original school. He is giving his student instructions on how to effectively fight Chen. Still, if she finds herself in a precarious situation, she should not hesitate for a second before surrendering. The young woman vows to do her absolute best. Her name is Wang Yu, assistant to the principal of number 2 high, and class monitor of Chun Yu's former class. As she makes her way into the arena, this trash principal is beginning to regret how he kicked out such a burgeoning talent like Chun. Meanwhile, it doesn't take long for Chun to recognize who his next adversary is. After Chin's expulsion, that which had the nerve to taunt him about, and smugly asked what he planned to do next. She was convinced he was just a degenerate who squandered his family's fortune. But in the present, that same arrogant which is now sweating profusely. Our guy is cackling like a child, absolutely thrilled that he has met her once again. To mess with her head, he throws all the invitation cards he got from the various institute representatives onto the floor. Then he begins to slowly pick up the cards again, pretending that he clumsily let them fall through his fingers. For a good few minutes, he continues to play games with her. He then turns his attention to the trash principal and taunts him by offering him a single cigarette. Our boy continues to trash talk this shit-ass principal, and it looks like Chen's taunts are finally starting to get under the bastard's skin. Predictably, the bastard of a principal starts bawling his eyes out. Anyway, he then orders his student to begin the battle. She acknowledges the command and assumes a fighting stance. With her power fully unleashed, she starts to circle our hero and then throws a devastating kick aimed at his face. The kick does absolutely nothing more than grant our guy another stat boost. Chen merely scoffs at her for her pathetic attack, and his insult crawls right under her skin. The trash principal is completely losing his mind, seeing that she, being at level 0.8, couldn't inflict any real harm. Chun then decides to demonstrate his own true power. First off, he knocks her off balance with some impressive acrobatics, and then slams the absolute shit out of her onto the arena floor. That bastard of a principal is losing his damn mind, witnessing the immense power that Chun is displaying. As far as he was concerned, Chun was a pathetic weakling who barely got by, with her down on the ground. Chun mocks her, taunting her that a class monitor just lost to a so-called pathetic loser. Meanwhile, the referee is left with his jaw hanging wide open. In his entire career, seeing someone defeat their opponent with just a single devastating blow is completely unheard of. Chen's mother is overjoyed while his sister is in absolute awe. The big hooter lady also wears a look of profound shock on her face. Meanwhile, The lady who absorbed the brunt of that attack is groaning in agony. Her brain literally short-circuits for a moment, as if it had to perform a four-system reboot. Chun, however, hopes that this harsh lesson will finally teach her how to remain humble. The woman then collapses from complete exhaustion. And since our boy is a gentleman of culture, he doesn't forget his proper etiquette. He gently cradles her in his arms to carry her off the stage. The trash teacher from number 2 school is as furious as one could possibly be. My God, then drops the woman unceremoniously to the ground, where she's completely knocked out and down for the count. Chun directs his attention toward the bastard principal and points out just how defective his teaching philosophies are. All this man teaches is how to torment the weak. Chun then presents the bastard with 2 choices. He can simply retrieve his student, turn on his heel, and get the hell out of there. Or he can teach him the legendary turtle shell technique. Of course, the bastard principal isn't prepared to accept either option, so he only responds with pure, unadulterated aggression. Our boy continues to taunt the shithead, getting completely under the principal's skin. Eventually, the principal scoops up his defeated student and begins to make his humiliated exit. While he may be leaving quietly now, rest assured that he will return seeking vengeance. Meanwhile, the principal of No. 7 School sneaks over to our hero and embraces him tightly with joy. The commentator then shifts his focus to the other ongoing fights. People are battling with incredible ferocity. Chun can tell that everyone who has made it this far is no joke. He's certain that once these matches conclude, the winners will be highly sought after by universities. But his principal reveals something completely different. This is only a tournament for today. Those who emerge victorious will be evaluated by the judges before they can qualify for the even more brutal finals. With all the matches now concluded, the commentator welcomes the chief examiner to the stage to announce the final tournament scores. Before he reveals the names of the victors, the baldy bastard makes it absolutely clear that if someone's name is not on the winner's list, it does not automatically mean they are losers. Anyone who managed to make it this far is, in fact, a winner by default. The teacher then begins to roll out all of the scores and starts announcing the names of the students who have been eliminated. The first disqualified student can do nothing but break down into tears. Many competitors are being brutally disqualified. Even Shin's own principal fears that they might get eliminated too. But thankfully, his mother and sister's fervent prayers pay off when Shin qualifies with spectacular flying colors, along with his proud parents. The other spectators are also ecstatic to see our hero win, and they erupt into a massive round of applause. Shin's stats even take a slight dip because of the audience's overwhelmingly positive attitude toward him. Our boy literally begs them to stop praising him so much. Suddenly, his gaze is once again drawn to his family on the sidelines, cheering wildly for him, and he waves back in acknowledgement. He also spots another rather unexpected spectator, that big hooter lady who, as per usual, flips him the middle finger the moment she sees him. The baldy bastard officially concludes today's tournament, now that the list of winners has been revealed. As a victor, Chun is awarded a special kind of wristband that will grant him access into the final rounds. All of the winners have received these special bands, and the baldy bastard gives them some additional instructions that they will be staying here for the remainder of the day until the finals officially begin on the following day. The wristbands act as a form of identity verification and as tangible proof that they are entitled to all the examination-related services during the finals. At this juncture, Chun has one extremely important question. The baldy bastard begins to sweat profusely, wondering what kind of profound question he might ask. After all, Chun is the only candidate who has performed better than anyone else. Turns out, this idiot just wanted to ask if he himself will be staying here. Then, where's his family supposed to stay until the exam is officially over? Later, Chun arrives at the colossal hotel where he's meant to stay. Of course, his eyes practically bulge out of their sockets when he sees the absolutely magnificent building before him. Even the principal is completely blown away, though the poor principal isn't permitted inside. The hotel is exclusively for the participating students and their families. Once our hero gets inside his luxurious hotel room, he immediately leaps onto his massive bed, which is somehow more comfortable than the one Drake owns in his mansion. As he's reveling in the plush, opulent luxury, there's a sudden knock at his door. When he opens it, he finds himself looking at a rather busty young woman. Her name is Molly, She's actually one of the candidates participating in tomorrow's final exam. It turns out Molly is the second daughter of the CEO of the Ma Group. She's just here to have a little friendly chat with our hero. After all, there's a distinct possibility they'll end up fighting each other. So she's hoping he might go a little easy on her. Chun, however, politely rejects her request. This exam could define his entire future, so he's not about to squander his final chance over some half-assed flirtation attempt. Naturally, the girl storms away in a huff, annoyed and in disbelief that her well-endowed charms didn't work on it. It's really starting to get under her skin. Chun just slams the door shut. He has enough to worry about already. Then there's another knock. He assumes it's that same busted woman, back to complain some more. But nope, it's his younger sister, who immediately embraces him as if she's trying to crack his ribs. Later, as both his mother and sister get comfortable in the living room, his family can't help but feel an immense sense of pride for what Chun has managed to achieve. That's when his sister accuses him of hiding a wealthy girlfriend. Because seriously, how else did he manage to enroll in number 7 high school? Before answering, he tells her to calm the hell down. To evade the question, he just reminds her that it's already dinner time and guides his mom towards the hotel's dining area. As the trio sits down at the table to eat, guess who makes another appearance? Yep, the busted chick, Molly. Chun is absolutely flabbergasted to see her pop up out of the blue, especially since he really doesn't want his sister getting the wrong impression. The girl explains that her own family isn't here and she's absolutely starved. She just came over to get something to eat before she faints. Though to be fair, she's not here to freeload without offering something in return. She has some juicy, top-secret intel to trade. She points to a girl sitting a couple of tables away. Her name is Bahuang Yao. Chun already knows exactly who she is, so he's not sure how this is supposed to be helpful. Hell, everybody knows she's the daughter of the prestigious Bahuang family. That's when Molly drops a more tantalizing detail. She's actually Yao's classmate. Apparently, Yao is super quiet, top of her class at the number 1 high school. But there are rumors that she doesn't get along with her family, and she has absolutely no one to cook for her here. That's the reason she's sitting over there all by herself. Oh, and most critically, she's still single and has never dated anyone. Since Chun is way more impressive than the average guy, Molly believes he might actually have a legitimate chance. But our hero has zero interest in dating anyone right now. His sister agrees, saying it's good he's keeping his distance. She says the Bahuang girl looks like an underage kid anyway. As for Chun's mom, she's worried the girl is far too skinny to give birth to healthy children. Chun flat out yells at them to stop bringing up this bizarre dating subject. That's when everyone else in the dining hall starts whispering about Bahuang Yao, that the daughter of such a famous family is joined the common folk in the dining area. And above all else, she's sitting there all by herself, which is highly unusual. But then again, her father is a titan in the business world. It's not like he'd be here to cook a meal for her. Meanwhile, Chun is getting genuinely annoyed at how everyone is gossiping and making wild assumptions as everyone finishes their meal and leaves. While boasting about their parents' home cooking, Yao still sits there, utterly alone. That's when Chun begins to pack a lunchbox with leftover food specifically for the lonely girl. Once the dining hall is completely deserted and only Yao is left with tears streaming down her cheeks, our hero appears. He offers her the box filled with delicious food. He's not going to let someone starve to death like that. He insists that she should help herself. Naturally, she demands to know who the hell he is, but he just turns around and takes a seat in a nearby chair. He wants her to eat first, then they can talk. Meanwhile, Yao begins to feel like she recognizes this mysterious guy. She just can't quite figure out from where she's seen him before. Finally, she picks up the chopsticks and begins to satisfy her hunger. Once she's finished her meal, Yao expresses her sincere gratitude for the incredible food. Chun then pulls out a pack of cigarettes, ready to relax and blow off some steam. After all, nothing is more satisfying than letting out some smoke. After a truly good meal, only then does he permit her to ask any questions she might have. Yao brings up the terrifying incident in the space portal, where she was ambushed and knocked out by some thugs. But a mysterious stranger rescued her, and she's intensely curious to know who that stranger was. She recalls how, when she saw him in the contest earlier today, he reminded her a great deal of the man who saved her in the portal. His voice and manner of speaking seemed very familiar too. In the end, she dismisses all these thoughts with a hopeful smile, thinking she's likely just overanalyzing things. Chun, meanwhile, goes completely love-struck upon seeing her radiant smile. Damn, she looks absolutely stunning. Anyway, he continues their conversation by asking why she's been sitting here by herself all night. He wonders if her father is just running a little late. And that's why she hasn't received any food from him. Yahello doesn't want to bother him with all the details, so she just implies that her father favors her older brother over her. The mention of her older brother reminds Chun of that Bahuan brat, who is tall, wealthy, handsome, and a top-ranking student at the prestigious capital university. Chun promises to help her out in any way he is able to if her father is being abusive towards her. Yaoi assures him that is not the situation. It's just that in her father's eyes, she is not worthy of being his daughter. After all, she's currently a level 1 cultivator, almost on the cusp of reaching level 1.1. For some perspective, this is an insane level of power. Chun had worked his ass off and barely managed to reach level 0.7, even with his special curse buff. Yao suddenly rises, letting the fresh air caress her magnificent figure, then expresses her immense gratitude for the dinner. She says she will never forget his incredible act of kindness. As she walks away, Chun reciprocates her kind sentiment, but it turns out she was only being nice on the surface. Inwardly, she kind of despises him. Why, you ask? Because his system granted him a stat point for being insulted by her. The next day, the finals have arrived. The atmosphere is electric with energy as the commentator goes wild, announcing the match between Chun, Yu, and Molly, that same busty woman in the pink outfit. Whoever she may be, Chun doesn't care. He is more than ready to take her down. The commentator explains how this final competition will ultimately decide the students' futures. The contest features 20 top-seeded players and 12 victors from the preceding tournament, making for 32 competitors in total for this first round. The 32 combatants will be randomly split into 2 groups, 16 in each. One group will be assigned odd numbers and the other with even numbers to win the entire competition. One must win 5 consecutive rounds to be crowned the champion of a year. With the rules established, the first round officially begins. All the examiners are incredibly eager to see the final contestants. Finally, the 2 opponents face each other in the arena. Seeing Chun up there, his family erupts and cheers for him. It looks like our hero has gathered some fans in the crowd too, all rooting for his ultimate success. There are also a great number of people cheering for Molly. Chun begins to stretch his arms and legs, getting himself ready. He won't go easy on her just because her school is highly ranked. Molly doesn't want him to hold back on her account either, but she would feel terrible if she ended up injuring her future husband. In her eyes, Chun is the epitome of an irresistible, devilishly handsome rogue, the ultimate fantasy she craves. She's utterly captivated by his sheer, untamed charisma. In fact, she's been watching his every move since the previous night, and is mesmerized by how he spent the entire night training. But oh, it wasn't training. Not in the way she thinks. His neighbors were engaged in a noisy clapping marathon, so our boy decided to enter the fray. He declared a one-man war of endurance, a true test of stamina. With nothing but a roll of toilet paper as his aid, he unleashed his one-eyed dragon, polishing his divine spear all night long. The result? A massive surge in his power stats by morning. One of his exhausted rivals complained about the sonic booms from room 22. They were certain Chun orchestrated the chaos, just to sabotage his opponent's rest before the final showdown. Chun simply scoffs at their pathetic endurance and turns his back, his GigaChad energy radiating so intensely, it's almost a physical force. All the other men in the vicinity practically shrivel up from inadequacy. It's the first time they've witnessed a mortal with such legendary all-night stamina. And this, right here, is precisely why Molly is utterly smitten with him. Her deepest desire is to experience that legendary stamina firsthand. But it seems she was just trying to sweet-talk him, to lull him into a false sense of security. Because the moment Chun turns away, she unleashes a vicious slap. She then suddenly materializes her hat and swiftly places it on her head. No matter how handsome or brilliant he might be, she won't swoon for him unless he proves his worth to her in this tournament against her might. With that declaration, she charges at him once more, swinging with every ounce of her power. But Chun simply weaves under her attack, letting the blow sail harmlessly over his head. Then he raises his guard and effortlessly absorbs her flurry of strikes. Molly, refusing to yield an inch, executes a stunning acrobatic flip and lands directly in front of him, at last creating a perfect opening to launch a true assault. The crowd erupts, astounded by her fluid and deadly movements. Meanwhile, in the waiting chamber for number 1 high school, the principal is seething. He is desperate to see Chen eliminated. He cannot tolerate seeing anyone else dominate the rankings, aside from a student from his own prestigious school. On the other side of the stadium, Chen's mother is watching the match intently, quietly assessing Molly as a potential future daughter-in-law. She remarks that Molly's wide hips would certainly make for an easy childbirth. Back to our hero. Molly is now dangerously close. Her ample assets are practically pressing against his face. She sees him blush and seizes the split-second opportunity, unleashing a powerful punch directly at him. Not just one punch, but an entire, unrelenting storm of them. Each crushing blow grants our hero a surge of stat points. The audience is absolutely captivated, loving how she's forcing this low-level nobody onto the defensive. Chen, meanwhile, is having the time of his life. No, not because he's getting his ass kicked, but because he's reaping a massive harvest of precious stat points. Plus, those jiggling mountains are a very welcome bonus. Molly doesn't let up. Her fists continue to fly like lightning. Finally, she halts her assault, visibly drained after hammering him nearly 100 times. Yet, Chen remains as cool and unruffled as a cucumber. Not a single scratch on him. Chen is having a blast getting beaten. It's basically a free deep tissue massage for his aching muscles. If only she had just kept going a little while longer. But now Molly gets deadly serious. She plays her trump card. She begins manipulating her hat. Chen is quick to notice this change and realizes that she's attempting to tag him with. But Chen possesses reflexes like a ninja. There is no way he's going to let her touch him. According to her, it's her signature technique, a special skill she learned as a personal gift from Andrew Tate. Chen, of course, is furious. After all, using a weapon in the tournament is strictly forbidden. But then, that baldy of an examiner interjects and officially declares her cap to be headwear, not a weapon. Molly proudly holds up the cap, showing it off, explaining how it's just a simple piece of fabric. Apparently, the fabric is a rare material called Shisui, only found in certain high-level space portals. It's incredibly precious, sold by the milligram, and typically used for advanced reconstructive surgery. Chen sees this trick for what it truly is. She's basically exploiting a massive loophole in the regulations. He calls her out on her devious, shady tactics, but the examiner couldn't care less. As far as he's concerned, she's completely in the clear. Molly, ever so grateful for the examiner's ruling, strikes once more. The speed of her cap is absolutely insane, but Chen matches her blow for devastating blow, dodging and weaving. However, it's starting to get incredibly difficult to keep up. Her mastery of long-range combat is becoming terrifyingly apparent. Chen knows that long-range specialists typically have a weakness in close-quarters combat, so he balls up his mighty fist, ready to throw a punch powerful enough to completely obliterate her face. But then he screeches to a dead stop. The entire area is now surrounded by razor-sharp lasers. If he moves so much as an inch, he's going to be sliced to ribbons. This cheap trick of hers only goes to show how cunning she truly is. All of her previous attacks were just a calculated distraction. She intentionally lowered her guard with those seemingly harmless moves, and then ambushed him with her deadly cap. She even distracted him further with her explanation about how it's just a piece of fabric. But it turns out that the cap, when infused with her key energy, is a truly lethal weapon. Now, Chen finally understands her real strategy. She's been secretly weaving her cap around, laying out a network of invisible threads throughout the arena, and controlling them with her immense key energy. The cap has become the nexus of a deadly web of energy, creating lasers that could easily slice him in half if he tries to force his way out of the trap. Molly smugly confirms his suspicions. Chen is annoyed, but hardly surprised. She's wealthy, powerful, and incredibly intelligent. She knows exactly how to exploit the rules. Molly reminds him that being rich is a form of power, too. She suggests that he simply surrender before she shreds him into pieces. She then casts a spell, immobilizing him completely. Chun cannot move a single muscle, and with that, the cap descends over his head as she severs all the energy threads. It appears that Chun has been checkmated. Even the examiners believe so. They are actually feeling quite impressed and proud of the incredible capabilities that number 1 high school is showcasing, which is exactly what one would expect from them. Meanwhile, the high-ranking officials from various universities are fighting amongst themselves, each trying to secure her for their own school. Then, Molly grabs our hero by the collar and begins to drag him along. In fact, she intends to drag him out of the ring and disqualify him. But it's that piece of shit woman who gets launched out of the arena, leaving everyone in the Coliseum in a state of dead, stunned silence. Totally in awe, the woman is completely and utterly bewildered. She cannot fathom how this is even remotely possible. It shouldn't be possible, especially with that accursed green hat still resting on his head. To provide some context, Chen takes us back in time to when they were in the heat of battle. It turns out there were no secret techniques involved. He simply grabbed the woman and yeeted her out of the damn arena, since he doesn't want to explain the method. He used to shatter her immobilization curse. He changes the topic and begins to mock her instead. Ultimately, the commentator bestows upon Chun the victory he has earned. He has officially conquered the first round of the finals. The principal is absolutely ecstatic to hear the announcement, and Chen's family reacts with the same unbridled joy. Meanwhile, the Big Hooter tobacco shop lady is watching this very tournament from the comfort of her own home. The commentator then announces the start of the second round. One of the next combatants is Bao Wang Yao, that lonely girl our hero shared his meal with. She walks with confidence towards the center of the stage, facing off against this bastard wearing glasses. Since his name is not worth remembering, let's just call him Four Eyes. Double. I can't help but throw some condescending sass at our girl. Yao isn't provoked in the slightest and is prepared to take on any foe. Chen has his doubts about whether she will be able to win this match, but the principal is certain that the Bahuang family is destined to take home the championship this year, considering all their influence and immense family power. Chen asks the principal if he knows anything about Bahuang, or rather, Bahuang Yao's older brother. The principal immediately spills all the details about her prestigious family. Her brother was the champion of the 2022 tournament, and he is now the president of the student union at the elite capital university. Chen says he's heard a lot about the Bahuang family, and that both Bahuang Yi and Bahuang Yao are truly exceptional students, though he says that's just to be expected from such a prominent family. Every family with a shred of influence is just like them, so it doesn't make sense why the Bahuang family gets so much special attention. The principal reminds him that the Bahuang family also possesses innate gifts, in addition to their insane family power, and their unique gifts are what truly set them apart from the rest. The principal reveals a small, dark secret about how the people of the Bahuang family once endured a tragic, brutal slaughter. But before he can spill any more juicy details, the commentator recaptures their attention as both combatants are engaged in an incredibly intense back-and-forth exchange. One wealthy spectator throws a jab at Yao's father, genuinely curious to see just how far the Bahuang family can truly go. The battle is unbelievably intense, with both opponents equally matched in power. Well, it seems I may have spoken too soon. The poor young woman ends up taking a ton of brutal kicks and blows. Right after I said that, this bastard finds a weak point in her defense and begins to mercilessly attack her. This absolute jerk is so determined to make it to the top 8 that he didn't hesitate for a second before beating on a poor girl. Meanwhile, the young women in the crowd are absolutely losing their minds, seeing this ugly bastard in action. According to the commentator, Yao is at level 1, while this bastard is at a staggering level 1.2, putting her at a significant disadvantage. So the commentator is certain that the Four Eyes spot in the top 8 is all but guaranteed. But Chen isn't convinced Yao is going to concede defeat that easily. As she lies there, beaten and bruised, her thoughts drift back to when her brother was crowned champion. His monumental efforts captured their father's attention. At that time, she truly looked up to her brother for what he had accomplished. That was the moment it became her lifelong dream, to earn her father's acknowledgement and respect. But that precious dream now seems to be slipping through her fingers. Her assistant suddenly rushes over to check on her condition. Of course, as long as Yao is still conscious, she has no intention of giving up. She is more than a match for this bastard. After all, she has waited her entire life for this competition, and she is not backing down without proving her own worth. The bastard believes that working so hard just to gain someone else's approval is utterly ridiculous. As far as he's concerned, it's all about taking pride in one's own individual strength. With those supposedly wise words, he lunges towards her again. But she does her best to hold her ground and goes toe-to-toe with him. Eventually, the bastard lands another incredibly hard punch, causing her arm bone to audibly crack. The strike is so powerful that she skids a few feet backward. The fact that this young man is fighting with all his might is because his father is in desperate need of a kidney transplant. So winning this prize money is absolutely non-negotiable for him. With that resolve in mind, he throws another punch. She swings her own punch in retaliation. And when the two incredible forces collide, both combatants are sent flying backward from the impact. It looks like she's ended up with both of her hands completely shattered. This bastard is also completely surprised by how she's able to withstand his overwhelming power. Finally, he unleashes his full power, his muscles bulging as his aura explodes around him. He starts throwing a relentless, devastating barrage of punches. Poor Yao can barely block these attacks with her shattered hands, but she has no other choice but to endure the pain. With one final, devastating punch, he sends her sliding far backward. He orders her to give up before he beats her even more severely. But Yao remains steadfast in her resolve and is absolutely unwilling to quit. Just because her opponent is a little too powerful, she awakens her inner Super Saiyan, and the sheer, overwhelming aura she emits sends that bastard flying backward. Chun is absolutely amazed to see this display of power coming from her. As far as he understands it, this appears to be the gift of the Bahuang family. In this world, they sacrifice their very life force just to gain more strength. It's actually remarkably similar to Chen's own curse. The more damage you take, the stronger you ultimately become. It looks like Chun has already figured out who is going to walk away. As the final victor, the lady takes her fighting stance and launches herself at the bastard. She throws a strike so absolutely devastating that his mouth literally explodes with a huge amount of blood, sending him flying clear across the entire arena. That single, incredible hit knocks him out of the fight, finally putting him down for the count for good. The young woman starts to collapse from utter exhaustion, but her assistant catches her mid-fall and congratulates her on securing the hard-fought victory. At the very last second, her supporters erupt in thunderous applause. Meanwhile, her father looks anything but pleased. He's utterly embarrassed that she had to resort to her family's trump card just to win a single, measly match. Cut to the treatment room, where the two beaten contestants are now resting. There, she sincerely apologizes to her opponent, especially since he desperately needed the prize money. But the guy isn't worried about it. With his current impressive power level, he can easily secure a high-paying bodyguard job and make more than enough to pay for his father's surgery. Still, she offers him her own scholarship, wanted to give him a chance at a brighter future and to help his sick father. In the hallway just outside the treatment room, Chun is deep in thought, pondering about Yao. He's genuinely concerned about her. She didn't hesitate for a single second to push herself to the very brink of death, just to win. It looks like he's got a tough new opponent to deal with. The next day finally arrives, and it's finally time for the finals of the college entrance examination. Predictably, the two final contestants are Chun and Yao, who is already dead set on winning, no matter the cost. Her father, meanwhile, is still visibly disappointed in her. This guy is just absolutely impossible to please. Meanwhile, Chun has already devised a strategy for how to deal with her secret technique. His plan is to knock her out right from the very start, before she even has a chance to power up. Not to mention, her base power level is relatively lower than his, so she should be no match for him in terms of raw, brute strength. But it seems she has already anticipated his plan. She injures herself with her own razor-sharp claws, and when he kicks her, she deliberately blocks it with her hand. The kick only serves to boost her own power stats, increasing her strength even further. Of course, Chun is caught completely off guard. He did not prepare for this particular development. Her special abilities are exactly like his own. He pulls off some incredible acrobatic stunts to create distance, but she is already relentlessly chasing him down, delivering a devastating kick right to his handsome face. Chun gets back to his feet, but she follows up with a punch directly to his nose. She doesn't stop there. She continues to bombard him with a flurry of punches, each one increasing his own stats even further. The young woman relentlessly beats the hell out of his handsome face, but since he is gaining more power with every single hit, Chun is actually enjoying this quite a bit. He looks so damn charming while taking this brutal beating that Yao actually blushes for a split second. Chun uses this opportunity and strikes her with a powerful kick of his own. He relentlessly throws blow after devastating blow, eventually knocking her far backward. The poor girl is battered and bruised, just as he's about to kick her out of the arena for good. she suddenly begins to levitate high up into the air. It seems she has finally shattered her own limits, and even her physical appearance begins to change, showing that she has tapped into some kind of forbidden power. Her newfound strength shocks even her impossible-to-please father. No one in the entire Bahuang family has made a breakthrough this quickly. In many decades, it seems, she has finally managed to earn her father's precious approval for the very first time in her entire life. Her father now sees her as an absolute treasure for their family. Meanwhile, the woman high up in the air is simply throwing powerful energy beams without even moving so much as an inch. That's when Chun decides to use his Donald Trump card. He raises the tariff by grabbing her from behind, which causes her to blush intensely. He catches her off guard when he reminds her that she still hasn't repaid him for the food he gave her. That day, she vividly remembers the kind gesture. She is incredibly grateful for it, especially since he was the only source of light in her darkest hour. But she cannot afford to lose this final victory, not after everything she has sacrificed to get here. Chun reminds her that she's literally burning her own life away for this forbidden power. If she dies here, she won't be able to fulfill the promise she made. Yao's mind is singularly fixated on Wen. She tosses him aside and retaliates with a powerful attack of her own. Chun quickly shields himself, but she is completely exhausted now. Finally, she begins to fall, spent from the intense fight. As usual, Chun catches the falling damsel. Just then, an interviewer rushes into the arena, excited that Chun has finally won the championship. But Chun is in no mood to celebrate his victory. He ignores the reporters and cameras completely. His only concern right now is the well-being of Yao, who is currently on the brink of death. Suddenly, the bald examiner steps in and blocks Chen's path. Chen simply shakes hands with Baldy and proceeds to walk past him, completely uninterested in stopping for the award ceremony. He doesn't have any time to celebrate or soak in the praises. The guy couldn't care less about pointless formalities, so long as he is getting his prize money. The reporters are furious, watching him blatantly ignore the ceremony. Out of the blue, Chen's principal whispers something secretly in his ear, and suddenly, Chen's interest is piqued. Now, he's more than willing to join the ceremony. Both reporters are absolutely shocked. How on earth did the principal manage to change Chen's mind when even the chief examiner had failed? And so, the fireworks begin, celebrating Chen's glorious victory. Now, standing under the spotlight, Chun grabs the microphone and starts preaching some righteous nonsense as the cameras continue to roll. While the number 7 high school principal is absolutely thrilled with Chen's success, the ex-principal from his old school is absolutely fuming. He cannot stomach Chen's meteoric rise. The crowd is going absolutely wild with cheers and applause, while the sister and mother share an emotional, tearful hug. But as the crowd continues to praise him, Chun can feel his precious stat points dropping. He then finally begins his victory speech. First, he gives a huge shout-out to his supportive mother. The poor woman is completely overwhelmed with pride, with tears of joy filling her eyes. Then he turns to his sister, expressing his immense gratitude for her unwavering support. She's in tears, too, seeing her dream of her brother reaching the top finally come true. Meanwhile, we cut to the tobacco seller lady, who is also watching Chen's speech on her television. She is suddenly caught completely off guard when Chen also expresses his sincere gratitude towards her. While calling her by the nickname she despises the most, Chen also makes sure to thank his principal, though he's not entirely sure which one, his current principal or his old one. The ex-principal tries to reconcile with him, claiming that whatever has happened is now water under the bridge. The bastard even offers him 2 million yen to represent his school. The other principal is shocked by the enormous amount of money. Chen finally makes his fateful choice. He turns to the number 2 high school principal. Of course, the bastard feels proud to have bought Chen off with money, proving that money truly rules over everything. Chun continues with his expression of gratitude, thanking his ex-principal for expelling him right before the crucial entrance exams and making him lose all his qualifications. He also thanks him for suppressing and insulting him throughout the entire competition, which really, truly demoralized him. Without that trash, principal, Chen is not sure how he would have ever ended up at the top. The crowd starts talking about no. 2 high school, and parents are already deciding to enroll their children in different schools, realizing just how terrible that principal truly is. That bastard is now absolutely seething after being ridiculed like this. Chen simply flips him the middle finger in return. Meanwhile, Chen makes sure to express his genuine gratitude where it is truly deserved. He thanks the principal of No. 7 High School for discovering his hidden strengths and for taking him in as a student. The crowd starts talking positively about the low-ranked No. 7 High School, and the principal swells with immense pride. Reporters swarm the principal, begging for an interview. Chen finally sits back, relishing the glorious moment of his victory. In the present, outside the medical ward, Chen is eavesdropping, trying to learn about Yao's critical condition. Yao's father is there, begging the doctor to save his daughter's life. The doctor delivers the devastating news. She can only survive if her spiritual sea is destroyed, and her key energy completely and permanently drained. But of course, this power-hungry father doesn't want her to lose the very thing that makes her valuable. In his eyes, she outperformed all the other members of the Bahuang family today, and he wants to see her reach even greater heights. At this, Chen bursts furiously into the room, absolutely pissed off to see this trashy excuse for a father, willing to risk his own daughter's life just for the sake of power. He doesn't let the bastard utter another single word, and punches him hard right across the face. A while later, Chen is back in his bed, his mind completely preoccupied with the thought of Yao dying. He can't sleep, his thoughts spiraling out of control. Then a crazy idea suddenly strikes him. He remembers the strange circuit board things he acquired from the spaceport. The USBs hidden inside those motherboards contain secret, encrypted data, and he's certain they might hold the key to helping Yao survive. So he calls that big-busted lady, Molly, asking if she knows anyone skilled in hacking or data decryption. It turns out she knows exactly who can help. The following day, Chen arrives at Molly's luxurious residence, where a group of busted maids greet them with grace and utmost respect. It seems Molly's older sister is the one who can help him. As fate would have it, Molly's sister is already a huge fan of Chen. After all, he possesses a 20-centimeter long cucumber, and just the thought of it is making her drool. Her name is Mei Yin, and she is older than Molly. Inside her room, she has already planted a secret camera to capture every single moment with Chen. Molly and Chen enter the room, overhearing her thoughts about him, which is incredibly embarrassing for her. Ma Yin quickly concocts a story, which is why she is so interested in Chen's cucumber. But Molly knows better. All her sister truly wants is to see Chen pee. Chen flatly refuses to show his ding-dong to anyone, like it's some kind of public property. Finally, he shows her the USB he wants her to analyze. Of course, Mei Yin gets incredibly excited. She has never seen a memory card made of this unknown material. Later, once they get down to business, she starts her hacking mambo-jumbo. She eventually discovers that inside this mysterious chip is an AI with its own consciousness, and it's impossible to decrypt its contents. Only large, well-funded scientific institutions can do that. Well, it looks like Chun has figured out his next move. Molly starts to drag him out of the room, since it's way too hot and humid in there. Chen takes notice of the lavish surroundings and asks what her parents do for a living. Molly reveals that she and her sister are actually orphans. Everything they have now, they earn for themselves. Chen is stunned, desperate to know how they made so much money. Molly finally reveals that her sister is the one raking in all the big bucks. Each program she develops is worth millions of dollars. It seems that making money isn't quite as easy as it sounds. Since Chun has asked this question, she wants to ask him one of her own in return. Why does he want these top secret files cracked? Chen couldn't care less about revealing any of the details before he gets his hands on the actual data. She then steers the conversation in a completely different direction, teasing him about how he's going to take her out to a fancy dinner and then lure her into his bed. But she's more than willing to skip all the pointless formalities and go straight to the main event. Chen also gets into the mood when she gets extremely close. Just as they are about to share a passionate kiss, the big sister suddenly ruins the intimate moment by popping up out of nowhere. It looks like the big sister has finally cracked the encrypted files, and these files actually contain a complete and detailed set of annotations for human genes. She's going absolutely insane just thinking about it, imagining a day when humans finally crack all the secrets of Genesis. If that ever happens, the only thing awaiting humanity is the evolution of the entire human race. Chen knows exactly how significant this discovery is. There's no doubt these files are incredibly, unbelievably valuable. They could be the single greatest discovery ever found inside the space portal of Qingcheng City. Governments all around the world would absolutely do whatever it takes to get their grubby hands on it. so he absolutely must not let anyone else get a hold of these files. Mayan further reveals that along with the gene files, there's something called the resurrection potion. It can't actually bring a dead person back from the grave, but it can dramatically optimize human genes. With enough proper nutrition, any injury can be instantly healed. Chun is stunned by this revelation, wondering if something like this can even exist. Later, Chun can be seen burning the secret files he received from Meiyan. He's already regretting ever involving her in this, as she now knows about the immense potential of the flash drives he possesses. But he had no other choice but to rely on her expertise. After all, if he doesn't figure something out very soon, Yao will definitely die from a catastrophic system failure within just 10 days. After tearing the important papers into tiny pieces, he makes sure to flush them down the toilet. According to the information he found inside, the miraculous potion is located in Area B. He is incredibly relieved that only he knows about this critical secret. Otherwise, mine might have already gotten her hands on that potion. We then cut to the dangerous space portal, where Chun is running as fast as his legs can carry him. Suddenly, he notices that both Molly and Mayan are following him. He ramps up his speed, leaving the two women far behind in his dust. Now that both of the sisters have been exposed, they decide to chase after him with everything they've got to try and get the potion before he does. Along with the two sisters, they also have their army of maids with them. Chun, on the other hand, to comprehend his godlike speed, we must rewind. Chun had mainlined a forbidden, toxic elixir, a substance he harvested from the space portal, forged from the cores of those shattered cosmic orbs. The moment the poison hit his veins, his power stats erupted, a torrent of euphoric energy flooding his very soul. Now, he possessed the might to effortlessly crush a level 2 cultivator, like it was nothing. Suddenly, the pursuing women halted their chase, because Chun had just breached the most lethally contaminated zone. To venture any deeper would be a guaranteed suicide mission. The maids were already reeling from the searing kiss of radiation, but Molly scorned them as pathetic weaklings for faltering, for only making it this far. Well, karma struck as she stumbled, her own body buckling under the radioactive surge. Chun finally exhaled, a sigh of profound relief. He had finally shaken off those relentless pursuers. He refocused his entire being on the prize, the place known as Area B. But even after an exhaustive search of the ruins, he had found absolutely nothing. Then, his eyes locked onto one of those familiar orb-like things hovering nearby. He cautiously drew closer and began tapping it, try to elicit some kind of response, but there was no reaction. Frustrated, he unleashed a punch against the wall to his left. It turned out the very wall he struck was, in fact, a secret gateway. He immediately stepped through. Once he ventured far enough, a blinding, holy light assaulted his vision. Before him lay a scene of utter, apocalyptic chaos. One of the wrecked vehicles bore a Ching Chong City license plate, a detail that sent a shockwave through him. He also spotted another one of the mysterious orbs. It appeared broken, yet it was still faintly moving. He walked toward it and asked the cryptic sphere for directions to Area B. The sphere responded, which was an even greater shock. It spoke in an ancient tongue, English. But before Chun could get his answer, the sphere began to flicker and malfunction once more. Chun was terrified. He started bouncing the orb up and down, desperately trying to keep it alive. Then, a busty warrior materialized from the shadows. Her gleaming katana pointed directly at his throat. This place was, in fact, a parallel dimension to Ching Chong City, and this woman seemed intimately familiar with its secrets. She demanded to know his identity. Chun introduced himself as a harmless and unassuming French tourist. The woman, however, was skeptical that he was even human. She tossed her sword high into the air, and it came plunging down, lodging itself deep into her own head, proving that she was no mere mortal. Chen's mind screamed with red alerts, and he instantly created a massive distance between them. Now that she had proven she wasn't human, she demanded that he prove that he was. She began scanning his body, and her internal systems confirmed it. Yes, he was human. Chun then took a mighty leap into the air and tried to strike her down with all his might. But the woman simply sidestepped, and poor Chun ended up smashing into a hard metal pole, the impact causing so much agony that he crumpled to the ground. The woman, on the other hand, began hailing him as a master human. and decided to introduce him to her direct superior. The man in question suddenly appeared on her system's display window. The woman first gave her superior a status report, saying, "This individual refuses to return to the designated safe zone." The big cheese then bowed his head in a gesture of respect towards Chun. He sincerely implored Chun to get to the safe zone, as he did not wish for a human being to be harmed unnecessarily. Chun had absolutely no idea what was happening, so the only thing he did was bolt out of there. He was certain that no one could possibly match his speed. It turns out he was dead wrong. This woman was literally matching his pace, without even breaking a single sweat. She once again warned him about the grave dangers that lay ahead. According to the data stored in her system, humans are incapable of facing these enemies alone, and the probability of death is a staggering 100%. She then called out to her multiple clones, surrounding him completely from every possible angle. She did not want him to remain in this dangerous place, and desperately wanted him to get to Area B immediately. The mere mention of Area B captured Chin's full attention. After all, it was the very same place where the legendary resurrection potion was located. With that, he finally began to walk alongside her. Chin was hoping that Area B was just right around the corner, because he was already completely and utterly exhausted. Then the girl dropped the absolute bombshell. Area B is actually located on the surface of the moon. That journey is going to take at least a few dozen days to complete, and he simply doesn't have that much time. Chin spins around in pure happiness when he hears it will only take 22 hours at the very best. Later, they arrive at a location where a colossal spaceship is docked, with a gargantuan robot standing guard. The robot appears to be spouting complete and utter gibberish, making Chun believe it's just simply malfunction. The android lady advises him not to underestimate these killing machines. In a single blinding flash, she draws her sword and slashes the robot down. While she's engaged in combat with the massive robot, Chin finds himself surrounded by multiple other hostile bots, with all of her clones already destroyed. The android lady decides to come to his aid, but Chun tells her to stand down. She is only going to make things more difficult for him. The android's concerns are perfectly legitimate. If those bullets were to hit Chun, he would definitely end up with a few extra, unwanted holes. The mechanical monsters charge up their weapons, ready to fire upon Chun. He, on the other hand, draws his own mighty sword, makes a lightning-fast dash, and completely obliterates those androids in just a single split second. The android lady is left with her jaw hanging wide open in utter awe. Chun begins to throw a furious tantrum, demanding to know why these androids wanted him dead when she views him as the supreme human. The android finally reveals that these particular robots were created by aliens with the sole purpose of eradicating all humans. She, on the other hand, is a creation of the humans who have already escaped to the safety of the moon. Chun begins to scan the area, hoping to catch a fleeting glimpse of these mysterious aliens. But there is no one else in sight. She then reveals that these aliens are unable to adapt to the bacterial environment on planet Earth. As soon as they set foot on Earth, they were forced to retreat underground. Chin finds it deeply ironic that the aliens went underground, while the humans fled to the moon, leaving their cyborg creations to fight each other on the surface. Anyway, he decides to continue their perilous journey to the moon. She directs his attention to the battleship they will be riding in. Once they are inside, the battleship tears through the atmosphere at supersonic speeds. During their voyage, Chun decides to gather some vital information about the moon before they land. He asks her how many humans currently reside in Area B. Well, the android lady doesn't seem to have any information, because cyborgs are strictly forbidden from entering Area B. Chun is clearly and utterly disappointed to hear this news, so much so that he even gains a stat point just for being disappointed. He then asks her how strong the humans are on the moon. Once again, she doesn't have any specific details because she has never actually met any humans, only learned about them from the data in her memory banks. Once again, Chun is thoroughly disappointed. By now, he's certain she doesn't know about the full set of annotations for human genes either. But contrary to what he just assumed, she does know this much. Of course, Chun lights up like a delighted child, while the android reveals that it's the name of one of the top secret files in her database, and it is now archived deep within Area B. Chun then wonders if the humans have ever actually used it. The android responds with a negative, explaining that it is something produced by an alien civilization. So there's a very high probability that it's a trap they have set on purpose. If those files are handled carelessly, It could irreversibly contaminate the human gene pool. Chun, finally ready to ask the big question he's been dying to know, asks about the legendary resurrection potion. But before she can provide an answer, their spacecraft is suddenly attacked, and the emergency sirens begin to blare. They're up against a hostile enemy warship, and a massive barrage of missiles is already heading directly their way. She grabs him and rushes him out of the main area of the spaceship, telling him that they have only 30 seconds before those mass annihilation missiles make impact. The countdown ticks away as they run for their very lives. She leads him to this giant mech-like thing and throws him directly inside of it. Chun lands in the pilot's seat, surrounded by a million incomprehensible buttons and levers, completely clueless as to how to operate this complex machine. At that very moment, the android girl jumps in too, with Chun now seated directly behind her, thoroughly enjoying the magnificent view of her peachy outlines. The missiles are closing in terrifyingly fast, but thankfully, they launch from the ship in the robot just in the nick of time. The ship is completely obliterated by the missiles, leaving behind nothing but a smoked-out spaceship engulfed in roaring flames. A little later, Chun finally lays eyes on the moon's surface, with some personnel already stationed there. It turns out this is the combat unit in Warzone B5. The robot lands, although it's a bit of a rough land. The soldiers on the ground immediately scramble to their feet in order to show their profound respect. The gate opens, only to reveal Chun, with his dragon stuck deep inside the lady's pitch-black den. The guy is clearly enjoying himself immensely, and even the soldiers can't help but drool at the glorious sight. Anyway, the senior officer among them introduces himself as the Supreme Commander of Unit B5. Chun demands that this man take him to Area B immediately. Suddenly, though, the enemy appears on the moon and begins launching a volley of missiles, obliterating all the androids standing there. The commander quickly orders his team to provide cover for Chun and escort him out. The damaged androids struggle back to their feet like walking metallic zombies. Meanwhile, the enemy spaceship begins to rain down giant, menacing robots. The android lady steps in front of Chun to defend him, materializing her sword. With one impossibly quick slash, she cuts down all the enemy cyborgs her path. Then, one truly massive robot falls from the enemy spaceship. The two powerful android fighters charge at each other, and this time, the android lady takes the full brunt of the brutal attack. Her knees buckle, losing all of their strength. Chun jumps back into his robot to take down the giant bastard. The piece of junk comes crashing down with its giant sword raised, but Chun easily ducks out of the way, leaving the sword to hit nothing but the empty ground instead. In the very next moment, Chun manages to sever the enemy's head in one swift, decisive strike. Seeing their master fighting with such incredible determination and bravery, all the androids get back to their feet, guns in hand. The android lady, not wanting Chun to fight all alone, chugs down a potion, which heals her grievous wounds instantly, as if nothing had ever happened to her. It turns out she just drank a resurrection potion, which can easily heal even the most severe and life-threatening injuries. This miraculous potion is usually found only in Area B, but every commander carries a vial, because it was originally developed for the cyborgs fighting in the wilds. At night, Chun and the android girl sit quietly together. She reveals how cyborgs were originally created to protect all of humanity, but for some mysterious, unknown reason, they turned into treacherous traitors. Chun, however, is certain there might be a bug hidden deep within their programming, or maybe their own self-awareness is just simply too strong, but it's of no real concern to him. He just wants to go home. After all, he's already obtained a resurrection potion he came all this way for, so there's absolutely no reason to risk his life unnecessarily. Chun then suggests that she come back home with him. The lady explains that cyborgs are strictly forbidden from entering human settlements. Chun, however, clarifies that he's not talking about the moon's Area B, but another human-inhabited area where there are no such restrictive rules. She can simply stay at his house. His mother is an incredible cook, and while his sister might be a little bit of a chatterbox, it's only when she's talking to him. The cyborg then clarifies that she was originally created to protect the humans in Area B, and since she hasn't yet found the traitor who is hijacking the androids, she cannot leave without first fulfilling her sacred duties. Chun, not intending to pressure her, just offers a firm, standing invitation. He then rests his head on her thick, comfortable thighs. He hands her a squeaky rubber chicken, explaining that he simply can't fall asleep unless he hears the squawking crow of this chicken. So he wants her to please squeeze it for him. Naturally, the lady begins squeezing the duck right away, and soon enough, Chun is fast asleep. The real reason he wanted her to squeeze the duck is that he intentionally wants to be disturbed, so that he can continue to gain stat points even while he is sleeping. What a quirky and eccentric little bastard. The cyborg lady also gets the hang of it and enjoys watching him sleep. The next day, they fly to the space portal back on Earth. They arrive and discover an enemy aircraft. When Chun insists on going inside to inspect it, the lady firmly bars his entry. She does not want him making any contact with the spaceship belonging to the hostile alien civilization. Chun asks her if the aliens inside are all dead. As far as she knows, they might still be very much alive because there are still active signals from the server that controls the robots that attacked them. Chun suddenly gets extremely excited and asks her if she knows where that server is located. She reveals that it's in an old, abandoned space facility, 10,000 meters directly below this one. Our hero feels smug since he can enter this place, while she's afraid to go inside because she is a cyborg. Humans are not conductive to electrical signals, so he plans to go inside and shut it down himself. But as soon as he steps forward, he is shocked to his very core the moment his foot touches a hidden laser trap. The lady is deeply concerned for him, but Chun only feels like he's floating high up in the clouds. As all the delicious stat points pour into him, he starts dashing through the deadly laser grid, taking damage while racking up an insane amount of stat points. Finally, Chun disables the power grid and the deadly lasers vanish, clearing the way for the grateful cyborg lady. They continue walking, and soon they come across a complete and utter nutcase who claims to be the chief commander of all the cyborgs. The android lady refuses to believe a word of it as far as she is concerned. Commander Origin is currently on the lunar space station, but this guy keeps on talking, boldly claiming that he is here, and that he and the commander on the lunar station are one and the same. The lady quickly draws her sword and points it directly at her supposed commander, accusing him of betraying every single one of them. But the commander drops an absolute bombshell. He hasn't betrayed anyone at all. His true creator is the very alien creature they have been fighting. Now, being the creation of an alien, he plans to completely eradicate all human beings. He's already eliminated everyone on the moon and has been planning this conquest for a very long time. Soon, he will eliminate the out-of-control robots and become the supreme ruler of the entire world. He then walks menacingly toward Chun, exuding an insane amount of raw energy. Chun takes his stance, ready to engage in this epic back and forth. But before he can do anything, that lady backstabs him quite literally. It turns out she didn't actually betray him. She's being manipulated by this bastard who is holding her control doll, since she's within his control radius. He can hijack her cyborg body and use it for his own nefarious purposes. As she retracts her bloody sword, she begs Chun to run as far away as he possibly can. But suddenly the massive gate slams shut, leaving Chun with absolutely no way to escape. The bastard wants to make her kill the very human she regards as a god, just to prove how truly pathetic humans are. Chun lunges furiously at the bastard, but he quickly moves so incredibly fast that he dodges the incoming blow with contemptuous ease. The bastard then uses the android lady as a human cushion, and she ends up taking the full force of Chen's next attack. He reveals that what he used was instantaneous teleportation, not simple speed. Even if Chen manages to catch up to him, he'll just use the android lady as his personal defense. Chun decides to change his overall strategy. He walks up to the android lady and simply asks her to take back control of her own body. For his sake, she's sweating, trying her absolute best, but failing. Chun continues to strongly encourage her, and eventually, she pushes past his control and severs the wavelength that was hijacking her body. In the very next second, she draws her mighty sword against the bastard. But the bastard intensifies his mental control, causing her to fall under his command once again. The digital threads controlling her are far too overwhelming for her to handle on her own. Eventually, she's fully and completely under his control. This bastard is proving to be a real, insufferable drag to deal with, especially with his annoying teleportation skills. The android lady charges at Chin once again, but he does his best to gracefully dodge, narrowly avoiding every single deadly blow. Chun tries desperately to snap her out of it, but she doesn't seem to be aware of him at all. Finally, she strikes him hard in the back, with enough force to make his blood spill absolutely everywhere. But this is when she finally snaps out of the bastard's cruel control. The android lady begins to exude an aura so incredibly powerful that even Andrew Tate himself would feel ashamed. She looks so incredibly fierce that even Chun and that bastard over there begin to panic. It turns out she has just activated her self-destruct mode. She would much rather die than take her beloved master's life. As her very body burns away, she walks slowly toward Chun, telling him to grab her. As soon as he does, she transforms into this magnificent high-tech katana. Chun unsheathes the powerful blade and dashes with godlike speed, slicing that bastard into two perfectly equal pieces. But before the bastard could be completely and utterly incinerated, he transfers his consciousness into a new body, located on the distant lunar space station. He issues a chilling warning before completely vanishing from sight. Chun doesn't hesitate to throw a taunting jab of his own. He's more than ready to destroy these so-called aliens, along with all of these trashy bots. Suddenly, the spaceship begins to shower Chun with a torrent of acidic rain, burning him. Of course, this only gives him the much-needed stat boost that he deserves. Seizing the golden opportunity, he literally begins to gather all of this poisonous, toxic stuff, as if it were some kind of incredible immortality elixir. A while later, he finds himself back at the tobacco lady's familiar shop, looking absolutely and completely tired from life. She then complains about how the space portal in Chingchong City sucks and suggests that he check out Mount Rolla, the space portal with the highest entry fee in the entire country. Chun accepts the proffered invitation card, though he still hasn't decided if he really wants to go there. After all, he just spent his entire day fighting in the space portal, and his body is begging him for some well-deserved, uninterrupted sleep. Getting back to business, Chun reflects on how his recent trip to the space portal proved to be quite rewarding, as he managed to salvage 2 full bottles of valuable poison, which is more than enough for a massive key energy enhancement. By the way, the heroic android lady's name is BB, since she's currently in the form of a katana. Chun decides to keep her around until he can find a cure to turn her back into her original cyborg form. He currently possesses 2 vials of the resurrection potion, one for his beloved sister and one for the brave Baowang Yao. A wide Cheshire cat smile spreads across his face, just thinking about all the cash he's going to haggle out of the wealthy Baowang family in exchange for this life-saving potion. The very next day, he arrives at the Baowang family's grand mansion. The building is so extravagantly massive that he is left completely awestruck. Although he knew that the Baowang family was incredibly rich, they seem to be even wealthier than the already rich Mali family. And this is only their house in the city of Qingcheng. He can't even begin to imagine how extravagant their main residence must be. In the capital city, Shin finally meets the patriarch of the family, who doesn't waste any precious time with pointless pleasantries and wants to immediately confirm if he actually has the stuff he is claiming to possess. Shin simply responds with a confident yes. The two get into some intense negotiations, and after a lot of back and forth, like true men of business, they finally settle on a price of 6.5 million. Of course, the family head is absolutely losing his mind after encountering such a hardcore negotiation for the very first time in his entire life. In the end, the head receives the precious potion he so desperately desired, while Chin gives him some extremely detailed instructions on how to use it. The doting father makes it crystal clear that if this turns out to be a scam, Chin is going to find himself in some very deep trouble. The assistant decides to take Chin along with him to deliver the transaction money. Once Chun has gone, the shady father suggests to this other shady guy to split the precious potion into 2 equal parts and inject only half into his dying daughter, while saving the other half of it for their own experiments. Then we cut to Mayan's advanced computer room, where a secret agent is reporting to Mayan about Chin's last known whereabouts. She also reveals that he seems to have gotten his hands on something incredibly valuable at the space portal, which only further piques Mayan's intense curiosity. Cutting back to Chun Yu's bedroom, Chun grits his teeth in frustration because he can't witness the full effect of the resurrection potion firsthand, so he is very reluctant to give it to his own sister. The only way he can actually see it work is if he can somehow manage to get into the capital city and watch Yao being healed with his very own eyes. That's when he remembers the prestigious invitation letter from the elite capital university which grants him access to the Mount Rolla space portal trial. He figures he can just participate in the trial at Mount Rolla, since it's located in the capital. With that thought in mind, he downs the entire potion to boost his ki energy as much as possible. As soon as that nasty, toxic stuff hits his stomach, he starts racking up ki energy like an absolute madman. A staggering 21,000 ki energy points. This enormous, insane boost grants him level 1.5, but it comes at a very steep and visible cost. Chin ends up gaining access to the end pass. We then cut to the escort car's designated parking point. Heavily armed military personnel are stationed there. One of the guys announces to them that the elite escort team will be setting off for the capital city very soon. He hopes that everyone gets on board as quickly as humanly possible. Anyone who is left behind will be completely on their own. Meanwhile, Chun is doing his absolute best to hide his face, trying not to attract any attention because of his brand new skin color. But of course, he still gets recognized by that blonde-haired bastard. At this point, the only thing Chun can do is regret his incredibly hasty decision from back then. That stuff he took was 10 times more toxic than a classic venomous bitch, so it's really no surprise his body couldn't handle it all at once. And so, our boy ended up earning the coveted end pass. His busted tobacco friend is also completely shocked when she sees the other, darker side of Chun. She's so incredibly taken aback that she faints on the spot. Back to that blonde-haired bastard. He's quite surprised that Chun is even here. After all, so many people wish they could enter the space portal in Mount Rolla for free, but only the top-ranking students of Ching-Chong University and the elite capital university are typically allowed in. However, we all know there's nothing that money can't buy. So Chin ends up booking a VIP seat for himself at a cost of around 50,000 won. To put that into some perspective, 50,000 won is basically 5 months' salary for an average person. In this exclusive package, Chin will receive protection from top-tier, high-level cultivators. Once he boards the transport vehicle, he attracts plenty of unwanted attention because of his prominent skin color. To avoid any more unwanted eyes, he decides to take the very last seat. At the very back sits Duan Yi, the top scorer in all of Ho City. Duan Yi is out here having the absolute time of his life, drinking heavily with his long legs stretched all over the place. Chin simply requests that he retract his long legs just a little bit. This dude, being a huge drug enthusiast, demands a very specific type of drug as a condition for Chun to sit there. Though Chin doesn't have exactly what Duan Yi is asking for, he offers a powerful alternative. A drug that's even better when it's consumed with alcohol. Duan Yi accepts, and as a result, Chin not only secures himself a comfortable seat, but also gains himself a good travel partner. Duan Yi then introduces himself properly to Chun. As we already know, his name is Duan Yi, the top-ranking scorer in all of Ho City. Chin recalls how the entire city of Ho was completely destroyed, and Duan Yi confirms it shortly after. That same blonde-haired bastard arrives, revealing that Duan had to take the exams in the nearby Shiju city, meaning he's actually the top scorer in that city, because of his sheer stubbornness. The Shizhou Education Bureau didn't give him the cash award he rightly deserved. Duan is incredibly proud of where he was born. His heart will always belong to the fallen Ho City, no matter where he happens to live in the world. Chun then introduces himself, casually mentioning he's the top scorer of Qingqing City. Hearing this, Duan becomes absolutely enraged and aggressively grabs Chun by the collar. As far as he is concerned, it's probably the people of Qingchong who did something shady to make the beast tide suddenly change its direction and target Ho City. Of course, Chun knows nothing at all about this. In fact, no one really knows exactly why it happened. Hearing this, Duan's entire demeanor shifts a full 180 degrees, plastering a broad, friendly smile on his face, after learning that Chun had no hand in the tragic fall of his beloved city. Apparently, this dude is absolutely determined to find out why the beast tide changed its mysterious direction, and he wants to exact his bloody revenge for all the fallen people of Ho City, as well as for his own parents. When night finally strikes, the personnel halt their long journey, so the passengers can get some much-deserved rest, while a few armed guards watch over the vehicles. A shadowy figure in the dark woods lunges at its first unsuspecting target and takes it down without a sound. That same figure lands directly on top of the car in which Sean is resting. Our boy can instantly tell that trouble has officially arrived, while his new travel partner is completely and utterly wasted, trying to find all the hot moms in this area on his phone. Soon, everyone inside the car begins to panic as they hear someone trying to demolish the roof. Apparently, there's a massive helicopter overhead that hoists Chin's car up and takes off. Inside the helicopter is a red-headed bastard, wielding a massive, terrifying chain gun. His dark mission seems to be to hunt down talented, young individuals, in order to instill a deep sense of despair in the common people. His true intentions are still unclear, but he wants the common folk to feel utter despair and crippling fear.